Welcome, everybody. Welcome, fellow patriots. Welcome, fellow deplorables. Welcome, fellow dregs to society. Welcome, fellow rock dwellers. Thank you, Joe Biden, for that. Welcome to the Conservative Commandos radio show. I'm Rick Trader, coming to you from the studios of the Conservative Commandos radio network. And with that, George, we have our first guest with us. Please make him feel welcome.
Absolutely. Well, I'm very pleased to introduce our next guest, John Zmirak. He is a senior editor of The Stream. He's also an author of the new Politically Incorrect Guide to Catholicism. He got his BA from Yale University. He also got his master's in screenwriting and fiction and a PhD as well in English from Louisiana State University. He's taught composition at LSU. He's taught screenwriting at Tulane. If you get the impression that he is he's a writer, that means you've been listening. And one of my son's just favorite movies is Gods and Generals. I've met Ron Maxwell, and he has written screenplays and worked with him. So anyhow, of Gods and Generals and Gettysburg fame. So John was an alternate delegate to the 1996 Republican Convention representing Pat Buchanan. So you know that he is committed to conservatism. So with that, welcome back, John, to the Conservative Commandos radio show.
Thank you so much. And I want to mention my most recent book, The Politically Incorrect Guide to Immigration.
Oh,
that's
excellent.
a hot topic. And it's a pretty thorough guide to winning arguments and persuading people on the most crucial issue that faces our country. I like to tell people immigration decides whether America will be saved, and abortion decides whether it deserves to be saved.
Interesting. Well said. Where can our readers, our listeners and watchers, where can they get a copy of your book?
Look me up on Amazon. It's ZMIRAK, or Politically Incorrect Guide to Immigration, and you'll find all my books.
Excellent.
And also, please follow me at stream.org. Stream.org, I have a column 5 days a week.
Excellent. Well, that sounds
And
good.
in fact, I've got a new one up now talking about the President's State of the Union address, saying how he's channeling Ronald Reagan.
Yeah, well, that's appropriate. This week, we, of course, are celebrating the anniversary of his birth. I think he'd be 108 years old were he alive today. And, I think he's the very first president I ever voted for. And I have to say, I didn't realize it then. I was really happy with him. I thought he was going to be a great president and everything. But I didn't realize how rare he was going to be. And, I just kind of thought that was normal, that I'd be voting for that kind of person the rest of my life. Didn't quite turn out that way. But last night, doggone it, if we didn't see, like you said, a lot of channeling of what I thought was, Ronald Reagan.
Right? No, I mean, what the president did, he stepped over the polluted piranha tank that the Democrats have made out of our national political conversation. He didn't get into the weeds. He didn't dignify the resistance and their outrageous, insane attacks on him, on his supporters, on his voters, on his family, on the boys from Covington. He didn't do any of that. He instead pointed to a vision of a unified America that lives up to its founding ideals. And he introduced and honored a number of people who exemplify those ideals, like that ICE agent who saved 300 Latino women from sexual slavery, like the Holocaust survivor and the American soldier who liberated him from the camp, like that Holocaust survivor who was attacked in that horrible attack on the synagogue in Florida, which, remember, the liberal media tried to blame on Donald Trump, even though the man who did it hated the president.
Yeah. Well, one of the things that I thought was interesting was the Democrats' kind of refusal to clap for certain things or to be excited about certain things. And it wasn't just that they weren't excited about historically low unemployment for minorities or women or even the disabled. They, when they talked about getting rid of the coyotes and the people who deal in the sex trade
human
and so
trafficking.
forth. They couldn't even cheer for that. I mean, like Kamala Harris, who's running for president, she rolled her eyes like, "Oh, that's stupid."
Yeah, exactly. And Alexandria Cortez.
Yeah.
She refused to stand up and applaud for a man who freed hundreds of immigrant girls from sexual slavery. That is how partisan, that is how narrow and mean and twisted the Democrats have become.
But you know what they did stand up for, though? For themselves, to cheer their election.
Yeah, that was a
Yay
brilliant
me!
move on
Yay
Trump's
me!
part.
I'm awesome! Yay me! Yeah,
that was a brilliant move on
I
Trump's
thought it was
part.
embarrassing and shallow.
Sebastian Gorka wrote very smartly about that in American Greatness. He said Trump basically baited them into standing up and cheering for themselves, just the way Hillary Clinton made the campaign about herself. I'm with her. Whereas Donald Trump wanted to let the voters know he was with them.
Yeah. That's a fair point. Well, you make an analogy to the Berlin Wall, so let's talk about that for a moment.
The Berlin Wall? I'm trying to remember.
Yeah, well, you talk about the media's Berlin Wall.
Oh yeah, well whenever Trump reaches out to the public like this, his numbers go up because the media has created a kind of Berlin Wall of prejudice and unfairness and open hatred towards the president. And so what the people get, unless they watch only Fox News, what the people get is a hideous caricature of a man who has made enormous sacrifices to try to help his country. And instead they present him as a boob, as an aspiring dictator. They make fun of his weight, of his hair, of his appearance, of his children. I mean, it is really vicious. It's like the 10-minute tape that you see in Orwell's 1984. But whenever the president reaches out to the people directly, the people respond, and they see this is not the monster that the media have been presenting. They're lying.
That's a little bit the way Reagan was too. At times, the media always portrayed Reagan as some sort of simpleton, a dunce, but he
or a dangerous extremist who wanted a nuclear war.
I remember
that. I remember that.
Other. But the point is, he was never really a real person until he spoke directly to the American people. One of the things I think is interesting that demonstrates their hatred of him is the things they fact check. For example, when he had the Clemson football players there and he talked about having enough hamburgers to stack to the moon, somebody fact checked that. And they figured out how many hamburgers it would take to stack from here to the moon, as if he was being literal.
They also fact check when he said that, when he talked about the American soldiers who liberated the camps and said they were angels, a newspaper actually fact checked and said no, only human beings were in the U.S. Army, not angels. Can you believe?
Right. Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. Or another one is when he talks about 1 in 3 women are sexually assaulted, they'll quibble and say, oh, the study he's referring to says it's 32%. That's not 33 1/3, so he's wrong.
Yeah, and in fact, the number is higher. I've seen much higher numbers.
No, I understood. But they found one study out there that was 1 percentage point lower than 33, and so therefore he's obviously just a big fat liar. It's just like, come on, you got to be kidding me. They
really are.
After a couple of weeks of freezing cold weather and it's a warm day outside but kind of cloudy, you say, hey, it's a nice day, and somebody goes, oh, no, it's not. It's a little bit cloudy. It's like, well, yeah, but it was 0 degrees last week, and this week it's in the 60s. That's pretty nice. It's just like, why are you so contrarian? Why do you have to disagree with everything? It's just, this is our press.
They're discrediting themselves by their own bias.
Yeah, that is for sure. Well, it looks like we are getting up against the clock. Do you want to take us in or out, or do you want me to? Sounds like I will do it then. Well, sometimes the truth of the matter is sometimes the clock is a cruel taskmaster, but fortunately we've got our good friend here for another segment, so we'll be able to come back with John after the break. But I want to remind you, you're listening to Conservative Commandos. I'm George Landreth with Rick Trader, and of course we are coming to you on the Conservative Commandos radio network, broadcast all across this great nation on traditional radio broadcast towers, and now broadcast on the AUN TV network in California and soon in Nevada. And if you're not not near one of those towers, you probably are, but if you're not, then of course you can listen to us all over the entire world, with the possible exception of Korea, or North Korea, China, Iran, and maybe Cuba. I don't know. But the rest of the world, we're there on Al Gore's amazing internet with TalkStream Live, iHeartRadio, TuneIn, American Political Radio. You name it, we really are everywhere. So don't go away. We'll be right back.
Everybody wants cheap airfare, but where do you find it? You call low-cost airlines. Their prices are direct from the airlines, and they're so low you can't find these fares published anywhere. They specialize in cheap flights, discount hotel rooms, cheap car rental rates, and great package deals anywhere around the world. Wherever you want to go, they can help you get there cheaply and with a best price guarantee. If you want the lowest prices on your airline tickets or other travel services, call now. That's right, call. That's the only way to get these rates. Experts are standing by 24/7 to get you the cheapest airfare and hotel rates available. So don't wait. Call right now for the lowest travel prices anywhere and for great last-minute travel deals too.
Call 888-431-0562. That's 888-431-0562. 888-431-0562. 888-431-0562.
My healthcare costs were going to double this year.
Doubled.
It
was down to healthcare or my student loans.
I found a better way.
It's neighbors helping neighbors.
Liberty Health Share. It's freedom from insurance. At Liberty Health Share, we support each other and keep health costs down. We're changing the way you're paying for health care.
This is the way it should be.
We're all in this together.
We're changing the way you pay for health care.
The movement to help each other is growing.
Liberty
Health Share. This is the way it should be.
This is how I make a difference.
Healthcare costs are skyrocketing. The third-party pay system is the culprit. It's taking money out of our pockets. Liberty Health Share has solved that issue by being self-pay patients sharing our medical bills. Liberty Health Share is a grassroots movement all across America where people are abandoning the insurance model and instead are meeting each other's costs in community with one another.
And thank you for staying with us. This is the Conservative Commandos radio show with George Landreth and yours truly, Rick Trader. Want to give a shout out to the folks who listen to us on stations in Jacksonville, Tampa, and the Villages, Florida, Las Vegas and Reno, Macon, Georgia, Lancaster and Pittsburgh, Boulder and Colorado Springs, Milwaukee and Long Beach, California. Our guest this segment is John Zmirak. He's a senior editor at The Stream. He's also the author of the book, The Politically Incorrect Guide to Immigration. John, thank you for holding through that break. We appreciate your time.
Oh, no, that's fine. Thanks. Good to be on.
John, speaking of the politically incorrect guide to immigration, it didn't seem, I kind of expected the president to double down on the wall. He didn't seem to do that last night. What's your thoughts?
Well, he spoke about the need for a wall. He just didn't get specific about the strategy he's going to take to push it through. And I think that was wise, given that this was a big picture speech. This was an inspirational speech. He was trying to push reset on American politics and challenge the Democrats to actually act like patriots for a change.
Mm-hmm. Well, John, you liked it. I liked it. George liked it. And apparently, America liked it too, because in a CBS poll right after the State of the Union, 76% of Americans approved of his speech.
Yeah, I think it would be wise for the president to do maybe weekly speeches that, even if only Fox News broadcasts them, because getting that video out there of what the real man is like, what he's genuinely like as a person, what he actually thinks, not the snipped up, edited, distorted, boulderized versions that the media put out. We see how they mangled what the Covington kids did. We saw how they mangled what Representative Steve King of Iowa said in order to portray him as a white nationalist. We've learned that the media cannot be trusted. The more often the president can speak unfiltered and unedited to the American public, the better he's going to do.
I totally agree with you, John. In fact, at some time ago, when Sarah Huckabee Sanders was blasted in the press briefings, my thought was, well, let's end these stupid press briefings, but let's have the president ask for more TV time speaking from the Oval Office, just like FDR did with the fireside chats. Eliminate the media, go directly to the American people. And I think it would be hard for the ABC, the NBC, to CBS to totally ignore those fireside chats. And I think that, especially after last night, I believe that Donald Trump has really learned how to take his message to the American people. And I hate to use this term, but it's a term out there, look presidential.
That's right. And of course, every time he speaks, they can find some loser like Stacey Abrams to get up there and whine about how the vote was fixed and she was robbed. I mean, that was a really, really unimpressive response to the State of the Union. She sounded like she was talking about some imaginary horrible country, or as if she were speaking about the conditions in Venezuela, where socialism has actually been tried.
You know, John, another visual that was obvious last night was all the white gowns.
They looked like nurses. They looked like nurses who were coming in to neuter all the males like dogs.
Well,
I mean, it was horrible.
I was going to say I haven't seen that many white gowns since I saw old newsreel footage of a KKK rally, and I kind of think that was a bad impression for Democrats to make, especially after this mess in Virginia with Governor Ralph Northam. Am I going too far on that, John?
Well, I mean, to me, it was more like a mean girl thing. You know, we're all going to wear this color clothes, and if you don't, you're not one of us. It just seemed petty. I wouldn't draw the Klan comparison. With these women, they don't care about race one way or the other. What they're committed to is infanticide. Mm-hmm. And to me, they look like nurses coming for your baby. That's what stuck with me.
John, there was also some news that came out of the State of the Union message that Trump is going to meet with Kim Jong-un in Vietnam in February, and also that Trump says China theft of U.S. jobs and wealth must end. Also, he hoped talks that will allow U.S. troop cuts in Afghanistan and places like Syria. And what are your impressions of the news that came out of it? Was it enough big news, John Zmirak?
Yeah, I think the president's foreign policy has been basically solid and basically sober and sound. Mm-hmm. I'm actually critical of the withdrawal from Syria. I think that's a little premature. I don't want to see our Kurdish allies destroyed by the Turks. The Turks have committed to marching in and wiping out religious freedom in Kurdistan and targeting thousands of Syrian Christians, including converts from Islam who are Kurdish, and they've already attacked them in one part of Syria last year. And so the only thing I would question about Trump's foreign policy so far is I think we need to stand by our Kurdish allies and make sure that they don't get punished for helping America to defeat ISIS. I think that would be like what we did to the South Vietnamese.
All right. John, one point, I know you as the author of the politically incorrect guide to immigration, he is sending an additional 3,750 troops to the southern border.
Yeah, I think that's very prudent. I think he's going to have to declare a state of emergency and build the wall using military funding. And what the key thing is, when a court tells him to stop, he needs to defy the court and keep building it. Let it get all the way up to the Supreme Court. Meanwhile, all the Democrats can do is scream about impeachment. But guess what? They're going to impeach him anyway over him having once, gone to a Russian restaurant. So if they're going to impeach him anyway, let it be over whether or not America has borders. I'm confident the Supreme Court would uphold him, and I'm also confident that they won't get enough senators in the Senate to remove him from office, and that's all that matters. Andrew Jackson and Abraham Lincoln defied the Supreme Court when it was necessary for America's interests, and I would say securing our southern border is the most crucial threat to our interests right now, the failure to secure that border.
Oh, John, I totally agree with you on that. I don't want to see him go the way of Andrew Jackson. Andrew Jackson having said after the Supreme Court ruled against him, well, they made the rule. Now let's see them enforce it. I don't want to see President Trump going into that means, because with the media, I think that would be a mistake. But I do like the fact that he continues to call for building of the wall. He continues also to try to reach out to the other side to work with them. I do believe by making those gestures, even if he does declare a state of a national emergency, but by making these gestures first, he can then go back to the American people and say, see, I tried working with these people. What I found out was it's impossible.
And it is impossible, because they want an open border to flood 1 million new Democrats into the country every year. And they want to turn one state blue after another. And if we don't stop them soon, we will never again have a Republican president. We will never again have a pro-life justice on the court. We will see the Second Amendment and the First Amendment torn up. We will see religious freedom constantly marginalized. Already you've got Kamala Harris and Mazi Hirono basically suggesting that Catholics are unfit for public office. And even people are questioning Mike Pence's wife because she teaches at a school that follows biblical teaching. I mean, we are on the knife's edge of seeing Venezuela in America.
Right. You know, John, we've heard this this expression, and speaking of Ronald Reagan, I think he brought it up, that we're only one generation away from losing our country. And I just want to,
we're one election away from losing our country.
I totally agree with you, John. In fact, as an example of that, I was going to use Governor Phil Murphy of New Jersey. Just roughly 1 year after taking office, he's made New Jersey a sanctuary state. He's got a $15 minimum wage, free college for illegals. And he's also passed a new LGBTQ curriculum requiring that agenda to be taught in the schools. He's requiring the flag over the Capitol to be flown at half staff to honor the death of a lesbian lobbyist, not our great troops, but the lobbyist. And now he wants to tax the rain. He wants a water runoff tax. So I just bring these up. This is all happening within the first year of Phil Murphy, 1 year after Chris Christie was governor for 8 years. And I was not a Chris Christie fan, but I just wanted to illustrate how fast, as you say, John, one election, how fast you get the wrong people in office, how things can change.
That's because there are no more moderate Democrats. If someone's a Democrat, they're a member of an extremist party. It just happens to be a very large extremist party. That's happened before in democracies. In the Weimar Republic, the two largest parties, the Nazis and the Communists, were extremist parties. The mainstream is not defined by the size of a party, but by the relationship of that party's agenda to the founding principles of the country. And the Democrats have abandoned the Constitution. They want to abolish the Electoral College. They want to suppress the freedom of religion. They want to take away our firearms. The Democrats are an extremist party. They have no place in power ever again in America.
John Zmirak, senior editor at The Stream and the author of The Politically Incorrect Guide to Immigration. John, please tell our audience how they could follow your work and buy your book.
Yeah, please go to Amazon and look for my books. Follow me at stream.org, or you can follow me on Twitter, J Zmirak on Twitter. Thanks so much. Bye-bye.
John, thank you so much. Take care and God bless. And you are listening and watching the Conservative Commandos radio show with George Landreth and yours truly, Rick Trader.
Have you been leasing a property for your business or renting storage space? Are you tired of paying rent year after year? Call the experts at General Steel to own a building at up to 30% off now.
I'd been renting a building and paying someone else's mortgage, but General Steel showed me how I could own a space tailored to the needs of my business and for less than renting.
Call General Steel now at the number on your screen for our current building specials and to price your metal building system today.
My building's the dream I've had since finishing my house 14 years ago. I've been using it for a garage, workshop, and storage area for my tools and equipment, and I can't believe how great it turned out.
The economy is improving and the price of steel is expected to rise. Stop waiting. It could cost you thousands. Call General Steel now to see how you can own for less than you thought. Stop waiting to start your business or expand your operation. Call General Steel now.
Call 877-484-7002.
Everybody wants cheap airfare, but where do you find it? You call low-cost airlines. Their prices are direct from the airlines, and they're so low you can't find these fares published anywhere. They specialize in cheap flights, discount hotel rooms, cheap car rental rates, and great package deals anywhere around the world. Wherever you want to go, they can help you get there cheaply and with a best price guarantee. If you want the lowest prices on your airline tickets or other travel services, call now. That's right, call. That's the only way to get these rates. Experts are standing by 24/7 to get you the cheapest airfare and hotel rates available. So don't wait. Call right now for the lowest travel prices anywhere and for great last-minute travel deals too.
Call 888-431-0562. That's 888-431-0562. 888-431-0562. 888-431-0562.
Serious allegations of voter fraud. The claims raising questions about the
Commerce Secretary Ron Brown and 32 others were on a military plane that crashed today in a violent storm. There are no known survivors at this time.
The U.S. Army was funded by the evil entity.
Saw voter fraud with my own eyes. To say that it doesn't exist is an outright lie.
The process is rigged.
So it's incredibly important now that we draw a line and say, not on our watch.
My healthcare costs were going to double this year.
Doubled.
Doubled.
It was down to healthcare or my student loans.
I found a better way.
It's neighbors helping neighbors.
Liberty Health Share. It's freedom from insurance. At Liberty Health Share, we support each other and keep health costs down. We're changing the way you're paying for health care.
This is the way it should be.
We're all in this together.
We're changing the way you pay for health care.
The movement to help each other is growing.
Liberty Health Share.
This is the way it should be.
This is how I make a difference.
Healthcare costs are skyrocketing. The third-party pay system is the culprit. It's taking money out of our pockets. Liberty Health Share has solved that issue by being self-pay patients sharing our medical bills. Liberty Health Share is a grassroots movement all across America where people are abandoning the insurance model and instead are meeting each other's costs in community with one another.
And thank you for staying with us. This is the Conservative Commandos radio show. I'm Rick Trader. My co-host today is George Landreth. And George, we have our next guest with us, and the honor of the introduction is yours.
Very good. Well, I'm very happy to be able to introduce Karen Cataline. She is a frequent guest on, a guest host on talk radio. She's also the producer and host of Spouting Off, which is a live internet call-in talk show covering politics, pop culture, with a little psychology thrown in as well. She writes op-eds. You probably have read them in a number of places. America's in some of our just really fine publications. Investors Business Daily, Western Journal, Town Hall, The Daily Caller, and The American Thinker. She is also the author of an award-winning memoir, Fat Lash, Food Police and the Fear of Thin. It's a personal account and analysis of her experience with child beauty contests, food restriction, and her stage mother on steroids. So that sounds like it could be a good movie. I don't know. So with that, Karen, welcome back to the Conservative Commandos.
It's a pleasure to be with you both. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Well, you've written a really good article on the left creating an alternative reality. In today's world, there's, of course, virtual reality, which is, something that looks real but isn't. And it seems to me that I just even the other night watching the State of the Union address, I just kind of there's this kind of alternative reality that's going on. So I think you hit the nail on the head. Let's talk about that. What was it that you observed that made you think to yourself, I need to write about this alternative reality that they're trying to create?
Well, there are just so many things that are converging upon us all at the same time. And I did write this before the State of the Union. I took a whole bunch of notes about that. And let me just say that within the state of Colorado, where I am right now, I'm a native of Denver, but I lived in New York and LA and other places. Simultaneously, there are leftists who are pushing, quote, safe injection sites. I don't know if you're hearing about this where you are, but the left has gone from the war on drugs, which never worked, to supporting and enabling IV drug use of heroin, methamphetamine, and cocaine. They want Denver to be the first city that accepts this safe injection site. Simultaneously, right around the holidays, this is just an example. We had drag queen story hour all over the country directed at children 2 through 8 years old. I wrote a piece that I took a lot of heat for, and I'm proud because, they do say you're known by your enemies. So I wrote a piece in Town Hall called Why I Reported the Case of an 11-year-old drag queen to Child Protective Services in New York. And so we had the 11-year-old drag queen. We have very recently, the left is advocating infanticide. So what we used to think was a slippery slope, we are now at the bottom of a cliff. What I think is going on is, if you think about, I was never a huge fan of the Matrix movies, but I think we're in the process of them attempting to create a matrix of a new reality, a new moral reality, which is, in my opinion, the exact opposite of everything that Western civilization, American exceptionalism, and decency has always stood for. So it's no less important than that.
One of the things that I think is very interesting with this alternate reality is it's generally designed to separate us from basic standards of decency. Like I've kind of been following the pro-life movement for a long time, so I've always understood where they were headed. But the reality is they've always tried to have this be a discussion about choice and who gets to control a woman's body. But this week we talked about a baby that's born, made comfortable, while doctor and mother discuss whether or not the baby should be allowed to live or not, whether it should be killed. And it's like, what choice is involved here? Whose body is, but this is the way they take things. They push. Now, I'm pro-life, so I was never particularly moved by these conversations about, choice and so forth, because I always felt like, rights are always important, and there's a reason why it's life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. It's because life is the most important right, because it's the one that is, you have to have it so you can enjoy the other rights. Otherwise, you can't enjoy liberty without life. So that there's a sequence to it that matters, or a priority. And basically what they want for people to do is place someone else's pursuit of happiness as a more important right than, but anyhow, but so to me, part of this creating the alternative reality is to turn all this upside down, to confuse people, to attack these, I think, important standards that have held society together. And, life matters. There's a reason why society protects life. I think there's a reason why historically we haven't subjected 2-year-olds to, to drag queen, so forth, so it just, I don't understand why we're getting away from that and we feel like all of a sudden this is a step forward. Like, really?
Can I answer that question? If there's time, I would love to answer that question. Of course,
I'd love to hear it.
Rick isn't getting a word in edgewise. He's just sitting here going,
No, I get the second. I get the second segment. That's fine.
He'll get his chance later.
I'm taking notes.
Let me first address real quick the whole thing about freedom and how the left uses the issue of freedom and the government get out of my body and all of that. I have to tell you that I was always persuaded by that in the past from a purely small L libertarian position. There are a lot of things I would persuade people to do, I would want to, but which I don't want the government telling me to do. I wish the government weren't involved in it. But I believe that this latest atrocity of the Virginia governor has created a whole new population of pro-lifers. First off, it is interesting to me that the left understands the language of liberty, but only as it relates to abortion. They don't understand freedom of health care, actual health care, because abortion is not health care. Abortion is abortion. But somehow they're okay with the government telling you what you can do with your spleen, your lungs, your liver, just not your uterus. So they are disingenuous in their arguments every step of the way. And that, by way of example, I hate to be so all-encompassing here, but I got to tell you, every insane idea that I am seeing today leads directly to what our eloquent and courageous president said yesterday, my favorite part of the speech, and I loved all of it. He took a full-throated repudiation of socialism. Socialism abhors guns, God, self-defense, self-reliance, competition, and personal responsibility. If you can make victim groups who feel entitled to be angry, who feel entitled to commit crimes, and then you've got perpetrators, which are always straight men, because of course straight men are the ones that are going to stand up against socialism first, then all of these things are to bring about socialism. There are some very, very sinister forces today that have gone off the deep end, and we could talk about that. I think part of it is because they see Donald Trump as the biggest barrier right now, and by God, he is, to socialism. So bravo to Trump. We got to get behind him in our way and have the same kind of courage he has to stand up against this evil ideology that has done nothing but create misery and horrors all around the world.
Could not agree more. That, I think, bingo. Now, we are up against the clock for this segment. It sometimes is a rough taskmaster that clock can be. But fortunately, we have another segment, and Rick will get to continue this conversation with you, so our listeners don't go away. We will be back with more from Karen, but I do want to remind you, you are listening to the Conservative Commandos. I'm George Landreth, and he is Rick Trader, the original Conservative Commando. Of course, we are broadcast on radio signals all across this great nation on the Conservative Commandos radio network, and we're carried now on the AUN TV network as well in California and soon in Nevada, and around the entire world on Al Gore's amazing internet, TalkStream Live, iHeartRadio, you name it. We truly are everywhere. Don't go away. We'll be right back.
Have you been leasing a property for your business or renting storage space? Are you tired of paying rent year after year? Call the experts at General Steel to own a building at up to 30% off now.
I'd been renting a building and paying someone else's mortgage, but General Steel showed me how I could own a space tailored to the needs of my business and for less than renting.
Call General Steel now at the number on your screen for our current building specials and to price your metal building system today.
My building's the dream I've had since finishing my house 14 years ago. I've been using it for a garage, workshop, and storage area for my tools and equipment, and I can't believe how great it turned out.
The economy is improving and the price of steel is expected to rise. Stop waiting. It could cost you thousands. Call General Steel now to see how you can own for less than you thought. Stop waiting to start your business or expand your operation. Call General Steel now.
Call 877-484-7002.
My healthcare costs were going to double this year.
Doubled.
Doubled.
It was down to healthcare or my student loans.
I found a better way.
It's neighbors helping neighbors.
Liberty Health Share. It's freedom from insurance. At Liberty Health Share, we support each other and keep health costs down. We're changing the way you're paying for health care.
This is the way it should be.
We're all in this together.
We're changing the way you pay for health care.
The movement to help each other is growing.
Liberty
Health Share. This is the way it should be.
This is how I make a difference.
Healthcare costs are skyrocketing. The third-party pay system is the culprit. It's taking money out of our pockets. Liberty Health Share has solved that issue by being self-pay patients sharing our medical bills. Liberty Health Share is a grassroots movement all across America where people are abandoning the insurance model and instead are meeting each other's costs in community with one another.
Thank you for staying with us. This is the Conservative Commandos radio show. I'm Rick Trader. My co-host today is George Landreth. George is the president and CEO of Frontiers of Freedom. Our guest this segment is Karen Cataline. She's the host of Spouting Off, and she's also a writer. Her articles can be found in Investors Business Daily, Western Journal, Town Hall, Daily Caller, American Thinker, and others. We're discussing an article that Karen wrote, Is the Left Creating an Alternate Reality? Karen, thank you for holding through that break. We really appreciate your time.
My pleasure.
Well, Karen, in your article, something really jumped out at me, and you talk about the left is now using children to push their political agenda. Yes. And I bring this up because of something that really is a bee in my bonnet. And I'll read you about this. New Jersey, which is the new California, New Jersey passed a new LGBTQ curriculum law, and that the governor has signed it. The government requires school to teach about LGBT history. It was advanced by the LGBT civil rights groups and is a big step towards inclusion in New Jersey. Now, here you go. The LGBTQ community has pushed this to the point where this is mandatory curriculum in New Jersey schools. So I just wanted to point your thoughts on that, Karen.
I am so glad you brought that up. I'm going to tell you about a coincidence that is no coincidence at all.
I was just going to say that there are no coincidences.
There are no coincidences. Remember that the left stock and trade is collectivism, is central planning and centralized government and top-down tyranny. Mm-hmm. Would you believe if I told you that precisely, I don't know about the language, but the exact same bill is running in the Colorado legislature right now? Would that surprise you? No. I bet it wouldn't.
No.
And this is what happens. They don't care who they run for these state house and state legislative seats. All they have to do is, with their enormous money now, we now have, unfortunately, I'm sorry to say, that Colorado has turned Democrat in the last midterm election completely. Now, that doesn't mean it can't turn back, but the Republican Party is decimated in Colorado. All 4 statewide races are taken by...
What is not to interrupt you, Karen, but at the end, please tell us why that happened or how
I will, and there's an excellent book that you can read. It's 14 years old. Republicans never did a thing about it. but it's highly, highly instructive. So don't let me forget that. I'll try to talk fast. So
Take your time.
the Democrats control Colorado now. All branches of government are controlled by Democrats, and people were afraid they would overreach. Are you kidding me? The Democrats don't know anything but overreach because they don't know any other way. They're pushing the so-called safe injection sites. They're going to go after guns. They're going after sex education. And there is no opt-out for charter schools or others. And what I was about to say is they're all about winning seats, because they don't care if the dumbest possible person is warming up that chair. They know that it's the big money outside of the party that helped get those people elected. They are the very essence of cronyism. And they've moved on to the next level. I lived in New Jersey. Okay, I lived in Weehawken. And so New Jersey is already controlled by Democrats as it is. So they can do just about anything they want. I would urge you to read a book called The Blueprint. The subtitle is something like Why Democrats Took Over, How Democrats Took Over the State of Colorado, and Why Republicans Everywhere Should Care. 4 billionaires came to Colorado. They were angry about gay issues. We now have a gay governor. Not that there's anything wrong with that, you understand. However, he has, a la Seinfeld, but he has an agenda. I was in the theater for 30 years. I don't have anything problem with gay people, but I have a problem with people who make Christians, of which I am not one. I happen to be Jewish. I put the Judeo and Judeo-Christian. But they have demonized Christians who do have a problem with it. Doesn't mean Christians are going to murder gays, but they have so hystericalized this whole issue for political purposes, including now using children. All of their agenda now is directed towards children. I wrote all about this with the 11-year-old drag queen. Why is it that they are targeting children 2 to 8? They have completely dispensed with healthy child development. And I could do another 3 hours on this, so I'm going to stop there. But if I may, I would love to connect with people on my website, KarenCataline.com. Twitter is a great place because I got hammered on Twitter. They called me a child, a pedophile, because I was concerned that Desmond, the child drag queen, was going to be the target of pedophiles. So they called me one. This is how they play the game.
Karen, I wanted to ask you, and you're the right one to ask with your experiences being in show business. So what part is the media playing in this? For instance, it's tough to turn on the TV nowadays and find a network that doesn't talk about homosexuality, premarital sex, drug use, abusing your girlfriend, popular music, same thing. Talk about the media's responsibility.
It's not just media, it's Hollywood. And they're different, but they're the same. And as Trump would say, huge. They are huge because they carry the water for the leftist agenda. And the end of that blog piece that I wrote about, is the left creating an alternate reality? I'm not a particularly observant Jew, but the more I do politics, the more I find passages in our Torah that help us. And this is from Isaiah. I can't quote it to you exactly. I don't have it in front of me. 5:20, which basically warns people that there will be people who will turn good into evil, evil into good, bitter into sweet. What I think is going on, if we Jews believed in Satan the way Christians did, we would say that their whole agenda is to turn everything good about this country sour, and everything that is indecent, immoral, and blameworthy, they want to turn those people into victims. This is dangerous stuff. I don't have a problem if adults want to be drag queens, but I have a serious problem when they want to indoctrinate children who don't even know who they are as people yet, and they're already indoctrinating them in sexual politics and in politics across the board. It's patently wrong.
Our guest this segment is Karen Cataline. And Karen, you invoke Seinfeld, so I'm going to invoke Happy Days here.
Okay.
At what point is the left going to jump the shark?
Oh, they jumped the shark a long time ago. I use that expression a lot. And the only way, I got to say...
Is the rest of America seeing it that way, that these people are just getting too ridiculous? That what they want is really not America?
I know that it's hard sometimes to gauge that, where are America, because really Americans only get to express their opinion truly during election time. And by the way, Democrats are in the process of corrupting that as well. So I think it is up to, I hate to be so evangelical, since we don't proselytize our religion, we might as well proselytize our politics, right?
Right.
It is up to each and every one of us to talk to our circle of friends and stand up. And one of the best weapons among many in politics is mockery and humor. Conservatives are very bad at that. They always want to be decent, which is decent of them, but we're getting hammered in the culture war, okay? So we've got to stand up and fight and mock these idiotic people who think that it is moral to kill a baby a minute after it's born, but, oh, we have to kill ourselves to adopt puppies. Now, I love puppies. I love dogs. I'm a big dog lover. But if people cannot see how preposterous they are, we got to help them.
All right. Karen Cataline, we want to thank you so much for joining us here on Conservative Commandos. Please tell our audience how they could follow your work, read your writings, and listen to your podcast, Spouting Off.
Yes, thank you. I do Spouting Off once a week, Tuesdays, 2 p.m. Mountain, 4 p.m. Eastern. Best way to find all of the meanderings you'll know more about than you ever want to know about me is KarenCataline.com. Karen spelled the normal way, Cataline spelled Kataline. I'm on Facebook, I'm on Twitter, and that's as much social media as I care to do.
All right, Karen, we want to thank you so much for joining us. Take care and God bless.
Thank you.
And you are listening and watching the Conservative Commandos radio show with George Landreth and yours truly, Rick Trader. Avoid disappointment and future regret. Don't go away. George and I will be back with more right after this break.
Friend, do you remember when it felt good to withdraw your cash from the bank to expand a business, go on vacation, or buy a new car? Well, today, withdrawing your own cash has become a very risky business, according to The Secret War, a shocking new research report. I just read it. And folks, I was amazed to learn why banks are now required to spy on us for the government and then report any suspicious or unusual behavior. I suggest you get The Secret War free. Just call the number on the screen, no charge, from the folks at Swiss America. And get this, did you know simply spending cash today may be enough to have you branded as a potential criminal? That's right. The new war on cash is really a war against all freedom-loving Americans. The Secret War is yours free, so call the number on the screen and you can tell them Pat Boone gave you the number.
My healthcare costs were going to double this year.
Doubled. It was down to health care or my student loans.
I found a better way.
It's neighbors helping neighbors.
Liberty Health Share. It's freedom from insurance. At Liberty Health Share, we support each other and keep health costs down. We're changing the way you're paying for health care.
This is the way it should be.
We're all in this together.
We're changing the way you pay for health care.
The movement to help each other is growing.
Liberty Health Share.
This is the way it should be.
This is how I make a difference.
Healthcare costs are skyrocketing. The third-party pay system is the culprit. It's taking money out of our pockets. Liberty Health Share has solved that issue by being self-pay patients sharing our medical bills. Liberty Health Share is a grassroots movement all across America. where people are abandoning the insurance model and instead are meeting each other's costs in community with one another.
Welcome, fellow patriots, fellow conservatives. Welcome, deplorables. Welcome to Conservative Commandos radio show, and now the Conservative Commandos television program. This is the State of the Union special edition of Conservative Commandos. I'm George Landreth, and this is, of course, my great friend and compadre, Rick Manning. He's the president of Americans for Limited Government. You can find them at getliberty.org. I'm with Friends for Freedom at ff.org, and we, of course, are coming to you on the Conservative Commandos radio network, which is broadcast all across this great nation from one end of the coast to the other, and also now on the AUN TV network in California, and, of course, carried around the entire world, except for North Korea, Iran, and China, on Al Gore's amazing internet with TalkStream Live, iHeartRadio, American TuneIn. So buckle up. It's going to be a lot of fun. We've got a lot to talk about. Rick, I'm going to turn to you first, but I guess I will start off by saying that I thought this State of the Union was a lot more entertaining than the Super Bowl. What do you think?
Well, George, let me tell you a secret. I really hate to say this, but when the Super Bowl, I started watching the Super Bowl, and then a commercial came on for the NFL talking about all the social justice warrior stuff they were doing. And they reminded me of all the reasons I hadn't been watching NFL football. So I turned off the Super Bowl. Even though I'm from Los Angeles and grew up an LA Ram fan, I turned off the Super Bowl. And from everything I hear, I didn't miss anything. So
yeah, you really didn't. You saved probably 3 hours of your life.
Yeah, the commercials were not any good. It sounds like they were all infected with the people being afraid to be funny. And, you get down to it, 13-3. 3-3 in the second, going into the fourth quarter doesn't exactly sound like scintillating football. So, having said that, I missed out on the football. But yes,
so you agree then? The State of the Union address was better than the.
It was much better, and one of the things people don't get is here in D.C. in some respects, the State of the Union is the Super Bowl. For those of us who are political junkies, it's resetting the course of the nation for a year. People will watch it. They try to get their little pet interests into it. And what I think was remarkable about this particular State of the Union is that there wasn't a lot of laundry list of things going, and for the transportation department, we're going to do this, and this. By and large, it was a speech which was focused on vision. It was focused on a vision of how we're going to continue strive towards greatness. It was setting a vision on issues, a lot of issues which were quite honestly a little uncomfortable for me because I don't necessarily agree with them. But they were designed. It was designed very specifically to put the Democrats into the uncomfortable position of having to applaud President Donald Trump, a man who they campaigned against, a man who they've espoused hating, a man who they're determined to impeach, a man who they've been resisting without any real desire to make America great. They're just resisting because they didn't want to validate his presidency. And so I think a lot of this speech was effectively set up to trap the Democrats into applauding President Trump's words and to put President Trump as the person who vocalized those words as being the person who was bringing everybody together in an untenable, in an atmosphere that's been poisonous, quite frankly.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think in a lot of ways he was kind of setting them up. In a couple of ways. Immediately, he was setting them up because we can get into this in a moment in more depth. But, I mean, I was shocked by the things they wouldn't clap for. We can go into that in a moment. And then, but the bottom line is, I think he wants to create a world in which they're going to have a conversation and face the possibility of entering the next election year cycle where the answer to the question is, do you want America to be socialist or not? They're going to be forced to answer yes or no on that. And and anyhow, bottom line is, I felt like it was about vision. It was also about setting them up a little bit. I mean, if I were them, I'd feel a little bit used and abused.
Yeah, well, maybe. But one of the interesting moments was one which was somewhat painful for those of us who really fought and strove for trying to keep GOP control of the House, was his acknowledgement of the wave of women who are now in the House of Representatives, most of them on the Democratic side. Yeah. And you saw those women jumping up and down and kind of, celebrating.
Yeah, wildly clapping and cheering. But they wouldn't clap or cheer for low minority unemployment. Yes. In other words, for high employment for blacks and Hispanics. Won't cheer for that, but they'll cheer for themselves. Yay me! Yay me! and it was very interesting. To me, my wife noticed that immediately. It was like, oh, so they're going to cheer for themselves.
Yeah.
So one of the things I thought, though, was interesting was I think this demonstrates that he was wise to accept the postponement and wait to give the State of the Union in Congress. Because when I listened to Stacey Abrams' rebuttal, it's clear she had no idea what to expect. They were not expecting what he gave them. So she just kind of gave this, I thought, really kind of weak response, and it didn't come across the way I think they might have hoped, just because she's coming from an alternative universe. I felt like, wait a minute, are you describing the Great Depression? I mean, it was very weird as she described how middle-class families are living paycheck to paycheck. It's like, well, okay, so we have the greatest, lowest unemployment, the most rapid increase of wages and salary, and yet she's acting like, these are the worst of times. I just don't think that's very convincing. I think most Americans are kind of watching this going, I'm hoping things get better even more so in the future. Better is always better, but yeah, where are you coming from? I don't know.
What they should have done, and the Democrats should have done, is they should have acknowledged that things were getting better, and they should have claimed credit for it, as Obama attempted to do, by saying, all you've done is just not mess up what Obama already gave you. That would have been something that their own base would have said, and it would diminish the president's accomplishments economic. I don't think rightfully diminish them, but it would have diminished them. Certainly, President
Obama has done the best he can with this, which is to try to claim that it's just his policies continuing.
Yes.
And that's, it's not very compelling, and it's not very serious if you know the facts. But for those, for the mind numb, it's I got it. Okay, it's not really Trump's economy. This is Obama's economy. Okay, and they didn't even check that box.
And that's the amazing part about it. They've got a president of past, the immediately past president who, at least if you believe the Gallup poll about who's the most popular person in America, still remains very, very popular, and it's particularly with their base. And they didn't use that tool at all, and it was really surprising to me. But I think there's some things here that I don't want to get too far away from the overall theme here. And the overall theme, I think we have to remember that these things are written for different types of things, and they're delivered for different types of things. President wasn't attempting to convince the members of Congress who hate him to suddenly love him. What he was trying to do was speak over their heads to the 55 to 60 million Americans who have basically just gotten a caricature of President Trump. President Trump's objective was to be presidential. His objective was to be likable. His objective was to be reasonable. His objective was to present common sense solutions. His objective was to be compassionate and to demonstrate that.
And to be very pro-American.
And his objective was to be pro-American and to put the Democrats in a position of saying, join me in trying to achieve even greater things moving forward, as opposed to being obstructionists who want to just destroy. And he put them in a really difficult position, because I think that's what a majority of the Americans who were listening honestly heard. And as a result, he succeeded in going over MSNBC, CNN, NBC, ABC, CBS's heads directly to America. And in doing that, I think this was a very successful speech, even though in a lot of respects I didn't agree with some of the components of it.
Yeah, I was really heartbroken when he didn't bring up climate change. I mean, we only have like 12 years. Well, now it's like 11 years and 11 months. And, well, I'm joking, of course. No one.
Yes, I know.
Hope you can. I hope our listeners can sense the sarcasm that's dripping from me. That's why I was referred to as Al Gore's Amazing Internet.
Al Gore's Amazing Internet. But yeah, it's no, we didn't. He didn't talk about climate change. What he talked about was something different. He talked about a bright American future. He didn't talk about 12-year death clock.
Right, exactly.
And that's the great contrast between the Democrat response and President Trump's address. I know we're running out of time.
We're up against the clock, so we'll take a quick break. But when we come back, Rick and I are going to talk a lot more about the State of the Union and, of course, the response. And we'll pick up on that theme that Rick just talked about the, kind of the vision of America and how it was unabashedly pro-American. I'm George Landreth with Rick Manning, of course, and we are coming on the Conservative Commandos Radio Network. And we are glad you're listening to this special edition. We, of course, are carried around the entire world on Al Gore's Amazing Internet and, of course, on the Conservative Commandos Radio Network and the AUN TV Network. Don't go away. We'll be right back.
Have you been leasing a property for your business or renting storage space? Are you tired of paying rent year after year? Call the experts at General Steel to own a building at up to 30% off now.
I'd been renting a building and paying someone else's mortgage, but General Steel showed me how I could own a space tailored to the needs of my business and for less than renting.
Call General Steel now at the number on your screen for our current building specials and to price your metal building system today.
My building's the dream I've had since finishing my house 14 years ago. I've been using it for a garage, workshop, and storage area for my tools and equipment, and I can't believe how great it turned out.
The economy is improving and the price of steel is expected to rise. Stop waiting. It could cost you thousands. Call General Steel now to see how you can own for less than you thought. Stop waiting to start your business or expand your operation. Call General Steel now.
Call 877-484-7002.
Everybody wants cheap airfare, but where do you find it? You call low-cost airlines. Their prices are direct from the airlines, and they're so low you can't find these fares published anywhere. They specialize in cheap flights, discount hotel rooms, cheap car rental rates, and great package deals anywhere around the world. Wherever you want to go, they can help you get there cheaply and with a best price guarantee. If you want the lowest prices on your airline tickets or other travel services, call now. That's right, call. That's the only way to get these rates. Experts are standing by 24/7 to get you the cheapest airfare and hotel rates available. So don't wait. Call right now for the lowest travel prices anywhere and for great last-minute travel deals too.
Call 888-431-0562. That's 888-431-0562. 888-431-0562. 888-431-0562.
Friend, do you remember when it felt good to withdraw your cash from the bank to expand a business, go on vacation, or buy a new car? Well, today, withdrawing your own cash has become a very risky business, according to The Secret War, a shocking new research report. I just read it. And folks, I was amazed to learn why banks are now required to spy on us for the government and then report any suspicious or unusual behavior. I suggest you get The Secret War free. Just call the number on the screen, no charge, from the folks at Swiss America. And get this, did you know simply spending cash today may be enough to have you branded as a potential criminal? That's right. The new war on cash is really a war against all freedom-loving Americans. The Secret War is yours free, so call the number on the screen and you can tell them Pat Boone gave you the number.
Dish TV is better than cable TV. Here's why. Dish has the nation's lowest TV price, along with an award-winning DVR that can skip commercials, record 8 shows at once, and get access to thousands of movies at your fingertips. Cable simply can't even compare. So the smart choice is to cut the cable and get Dish. Plus, you get all these great TV features, free HD DVR upgrade, free installation, and free movie channels. Say goodbye to cable and get more with Dish TV. 877-290-7764, 877-290-7764. As an added bonus, you can switch to Dish now and receive a $50 Visa gift card. So call now and get Dish TV. Call 877-290-7764, 877-290-7764. That's 877-290-7764. Limited time offer, 24-month commitment and credit qualification required. Cancellation fee, monthly equipment fees, and other restrictions apply. Promotion can change at any time.
My healthcare costs were going to double this year.
Doubled.
Doubled.
It was down to healthcare or my student loans.
I found a better way.
It's neighbors helping neighbors.
Liberty Health Share. It's freedom from insurance. At Liberty Health Share, we support each other and keep health costs down. We're changing the way you're paying for health care.
This is the way it should be.
We're all in this together.
We're changing the way you pay for health care.
The movement to help each other is growing.
Liberty
Health Share. This is the way it should be.
This is how I make a difference.
Healthcare costs are skyrocketing. The third-party pay system is the culprit. It's taking money out of our pockets. Liberty Health Share has solved that issue by being self-pay patients sharing our medical bills. Liberty Health Share is a grassroots movement all across America where people are abandoning the insurance model and instead are meeting each other's costs in community with one another.
Welcome back to the Conservative Commandos. I'm George Landreth. He's Rick Manning. We're your Conservative Commandos host today for this special edition of the Conservative Commandos, the State of the Union edition. Of course, that just occurred last night, so this is the first opportunity the Conservative Commandos have had to talk about the State of the Union, and we're glad to be here to do it with you. Rick, of course, is the president of Americans for Limited Government, GetLiberty.org. I'm the president of Frontiers of Freedom, FF.org. I want to remind you, if you'd like to hear a rebroadcast of our show today, if you want more information, just check out our website, CCRSnetwork.com and CCRshow.com. And, of course, you can always like us, friend us, and follow us on Facebook and Twitter. Just look for the Conservative Commandos. Well, Rick, before the break, we were, gave our initial kind of view of things. But I thought, we should get back to this kind of, I thought, unabashedly pro-American. Because a lot of this speech was essentially a history lesson. And you may know that history well. I may know that history well. Some of our listeners may as well. But I'm not sure the average American fully appreciates it. They've been listening to the Blame America First crowd. I mean, we just went through 8 years of Barack Obama, who's a founding member of the Blame America First crowd. And so this president was trotting out the many different ways that America has really changed the world and what a special and amazing place it is, even without claiming any perfection on our part. Just, but amazing and exceptional. And I thought that part of it was pretty powerful.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it wrapped it up and at the end when he had we went from Buzz Aldrin, the second man to walk on the moon, showing what American innovation has done and the amazing capacity to get stuff done when we put our minds to it. Remember, we were behind in the space race. We were way behind in the space race. We didn't have John Glenn circle the Earth until 1963 or so. But what happened? We were determined that we were going to go to the moon. 6 years later, yeah, we went to the moon. Nowadays, it takes 6 years to get an environmental impact report to dig a ditch. So it's it just shows that when America decides it wants to do something, great things can happen. We had the just incredible image of the survivor from the concentration camp saluting the man who was part of the liberating army that liberated him. I mean, we're talking about this is 1945. We're not going to experience that again. America's not going to see that again. It was astonishing reminder of the courage of somebody who landed on Normandy, who fought through all the fighting and the death that existed, the hail of bullets on the beach, and survived to liberate people who were sentenced to death. It took my breath away. It took my breath
I agree.
away. And you know what? All I could think is I sure hope that some of those women wearing white suits were paying attention, because I don't think a lot of them actually have heard that history, that they actually understand.
It was interesting to watch what they would stand and not stand for. I mean, for example, when the president made a plea for unity and bipartisanship, they weren't that interested. They looked a little bemused. When he talked about the lowest minority and disability unemployment ever, again, they just kind of like sat on their hands. It was very interesting to me that he, when he said the State of the Union is strong, I saw Democrats in some cases like giggle and smirk, and it was very interesting to me to see their hatred for Donald Trump is so profound that it gets in the way of their love of country.
Yeah, well, I don't know that there is that love of country.
Well, fair enough. It may totally counteract and overwhelm.
They haven't been raised that way, but you get down to it. We saw a contrast. The contrast was, you represent, you're the head of Frontiers of Freedom. I'm Americans for Limited Government. I'm unabashedly, my website is getliberty.org. Okay? Unabashedly pro-individual liberty, unabashedly pro-freedom. You're unabashedly pro-freedom.
Yep.
And what we saw was a defense of freedom. We saw a defense of liberty. We saw a defense of an America that stands up for what's right and fights for what's right and has disagreements and comes through them. We see an America who has grown over time to becoming more and more free. We see, and yet it's all without even saying so, because just the fact he had to explain about the history, it shows how much that freedom is beginning to slip through our fingers. Yeah. And the contrast of the hand-sitting Democrats who had to look around and had to be cued to be told when they had to stand because they weren't apparently bright enough to figure it out for themselves. It was a real contrast between the kind of rousing support that the president received from the Republican side and quite frankly from Joe Manchin on many things.
Yeah. I did notice that. In fact, a couple times he looked back a little bemused, like, you guys can't, like he was looking over his shoulder. Like, you can't clap for this? What's wrong with you people?
We've got energy independence. How can you not be clapping for this? Right. It is and it really was revelatory to me is how so many things which are just such a massively positive achievements were ignored. So I don't know. It's a
I mean, you made a good point about the he had great heroes in the balcony, great stories about the American experience, why the 20th century was the American century, and then while I didn't necessarily like all of the policy points that were made, he did a very good job on describing the difference between legal and illegal immigration and what needed to happen there. I thought his defense of life was just astounding. It was great.
Yeah,
a lot of presidents have tiptoed around that. He did not tiptoe around it. He went right after Ralph Northam, and the Democrats in New York for their support of infanticide.
In fact, I want to spend the next segment talking a little bit more about that.
Yeah, we should.
One of the other things that I think was clear there was a theme that ran throughout, and it was really a theme taking on this anti-Semitism that's beginning to take over the Democratic Party.
Yeah. Well, that's the weird thing. He talked about being against genocide of Jews, and I saw lots of Democrats sitting on their hands. It was like,
how can you be against the genocide of Jews?
Yeah.
But you see,
when the president's talking about stopping a genocide and you sit there and act like you don't care, what?
20% of millennials don't actually know that the Holocaust existed. So we have a dearth of education, but it went from moving the capital to Jerusalem, our recognizing the capital of Israel as being Jerusalem. It went to the Pittsburgh shooting in the synagogue, and the hero who went in and got shot 8 or 9 times, saving people, and the one of the people who was there who was saved, who then related back to the concentration camp, who then related to the World War II hero who liberated it, showing the breadth of history of American being a country, a nation that puts aside creed, is putting aside color, is putting aside religion, because we're human. We're human first. And that's the essence of freedom. And they managed to blow that. The Democrats couldn't understand that. But that was the thread.
I also thought it was really, we saw first tonight, which was we saw first last night when we saw the whole chamber break out in happy birthday, which, to this, survivor of the attack in Pittsburgh. And, again, this president really knows how to put on a show. I mean, at one point he had pretty much the whole chamber, maybe minus, Ocasio-Cortez or something, but chanting USA.
Yeah.
For a moment I thought, wait a minute, is this a Trump rally?
I thought he was going to hand out MAGA hats at the end. But once again, where the clock is a cruel mistress. So, George, do you want to take us out?
Sure. I'll take us out. It's a rough taskmaster, but you are listening to the Conservative Commandos. I'm George Landreth. He's Rick Manning. He's with Americans for Limited Government. And of course, I'm with Frontiers of Freedom. We both are strong supporters of the Freedom Agenda, which is some of the stuff we liked last night in the State of the Union. But we are coming to you on the Conservative Commando Radio Network, which is broadcast all across this great nation in Florida, California, Pennsylvania, Nevada, Colorado, Wisconsin, and Georgia, and carried on the AUN TV network in California and around the entire world on Al Gore's amazing internet. TalkStream Live, iHeartRadio, TuneIn, American Political Radio, AM/FM 24/7. Don't go away. Rick and I will be right back with more of this special edition of the Conservative Commandos.
Have you been leasing a property for your business or renting storage space? Are you tired of paying rent year after year? Call the experts at General Steel to own a building at up to 30% off now.
I'd been renting a building and paying someone else's mortgage, but General Steel showed me how I could own a space tailored to the needs of my business and for less than renting.
Call General Steel now at the number on your screen for our current building specials and to price your metal building system today.
My building's the dream I've had since finishing my house 14 years ago. I've been using it for a garage, workshop, and storage area for my tools and equipment, and I can't believe how great it turned out.
The economy is improving and the price of steel is expected to rise. Stop waiting. It could cost you thousands. Call General Steel now to see how you can own for less than you thought. Stop waiting to start your business or expand your operation. Call General Steel now.
Call 877-484-7002.
Everybody wants cheap airfare, but where do you find it? You call low-cost airlines. Their prices are direct from the airlines, and they're so low you can't find these fares published anywhere. They specialize in cheap flights, discount hotel rooms, cheap car rental rates, and great package deals anywhere around the world. Wherever you want to go, they can help you get there cheaply and with a best price guarantee. If you want the lowest prices on your airline tickets or other travel services, call now. That's right, call. That's the only way to get these rates. Experts are standing by 24/7 to get you the cheapest airfare and hotel rates available. So don't wait. Call right now for the lowest travel prices anywhere and for great last-minute travel deals too.
Call 888-431-0562. That's 888-431-0562. 888-431-0562. 888-431-0562.
Friend, do you remember when it felt good to withdraw your cash from the bank to expand a business, go on vacation, or buy a new car? Well, today, withdrawing your own cash has become a very risky business, according to The Secret War, a shocking new research report. I just read it. And folks, I was amazed to learn why banks are now required to spy on us for the government and then report any suspicious or unusual behavior. I suggest you get The Secret War free. Just call the number on the screen, no charge, from the folks at Swiss America, and get this. Did you know simply spending cash today may be enough to have you branded as a potential criminal? That's right. The new war on cash is really a war against all freedom-loving Americans. The Secret War is yours free, so call the number on the screen and you can tell them Pat Boone gave you the number.
Dish TV is better than cable TV. Here's why. Dish has the nation's lowest TV price, along with an award-winning DVR that can skip commercials, record 8 shows at once, and get access to thousands of movies at your fingertips. Cable simply can't even compare. So the smart choice is to cut the cable and get Dish. Plus, you get all these great TV features, free HD DVR upgrade, free installation, and free movie channels. Say goodbye to cable and get more with Dish TV. 877-290-7764, 877-290-7764. As an added bonus, you can switch to Dish now and receive a $50 Visa gift card. So call now and get Dish TV. Call 877-290-7764, 877-290-7764. That's 877-290-7764. Limited time offer, 24-month commitment and credit qualification required. Cancellation fee, monthly equipment fees, and other restrictions apply. Promotion can change at any time.
My healthcare costs were going to double this year.
Doubled.
Doubled.
It was down to healthcare or my student loans.
I found a better way.
It's neighbors helping neighbors.
Liberty Health Share. It's freedom from insurance. At Liberty Health Share, we support each other and keep health costs down. We're changing the way you're paying for health care.
This is the way it should be.
We're all in this together.
Together.
We're changing the way you pay for health care.
The movement to help each other is growing.
Liberty.
Liberty Health Share. This is the way it should be.
This is how I make a difference.
Healthcare costs are skyrocketing. The third-party pay system is the culprit. It's taking money out of our pockets. Liberty Health Share has solved that issue by being self-pay patients sharing our medical bills. Liberty Health Share is a grassroots movement all across America where people are abandoning the insurance model and instead are meeting each other's costs in community with one another.
Welcome back to the Conservative Commandos. I'm George Landreth. He's Rick Manning. We're your Conservative Commandos host today. This is the place people go when they want to hear about what's actually happening in the world. We have a strict ban on fake news here. We only give the real stuff. Rick, of course, is the president of Americans for Limited Government. Their website, getliberty.org. I'm with Frontiers of Freedom, ff.org. And the Conservative Commandos, if you want to hear a rebroadcast of our show, if you missed anything, you want to hear it again, you want to let your friends know about it, check out our websites, our websites, which would be Conservative Commandos. So that's CCRSnetwork.com and CCRshow.com. Now, you may ask, CCR, does that stand for Creedence Clearwater Revival? No, it's Conservative Commandos radio show. So CCRshow.com. And there you can, watch the show. You can listen to the show depending on what your preference is. But Rick, we have been we right before the break we talked a little bit about the president's defense of life, and you said you wanted to get back to that. Do you feel like now's the time for that?
Let's do it. Because I think it's such an important point. What we saw, there's very few times in politics where you see something that just is a complete game changer, where it has such a salutary impact on people that it changes perceptions. It changes everything about how people perceive an issue. And I think we saw that over the last week on the abortion issue. The picture of Andrew Cuomo and whoever that evil woman who was sitting next to him, that crazy grandma woman, signing legislation that would allow for killing a baby, a fully grown 40-week old baby in the womb, and then followed up by the ghoulish Governor Northam from Virginia, who just calmly and chillingly described what would happen in terms of a baby. Oh, mind you, disabled, so it's okay because it's less than human.
And they were going to keep it comfortable, of course.
And they keep it comfortable
while they figured out
they have a discussion about whether to kill it, whether to kill this person. And he described it not as a
after birth. I mean, that's the thing that's amazing to me, is he talks about it was already born.
Yeah.
And it was delivered, and it's alive, and they're going to keep it comfortable. And my attitude would be is, why are you keeping it comfortable? If you're going to kill it, I'm just curious. If it's worthy of being killed, why do you keep it comfortable? Because of course he'd say, well, to be humane. And my answer is, then why don't you try not killing it?
Yeah, something about the Hippocratic Oath got lost on him, as he apparently believes that it's his duty to kill humans rather than to save life.
I guess I got the wrong translation. I thought it was first do no harm.
Yeah, well,
now it sounds like it must be, first kill the baby or something. I don't know, but
George, here's the thing that's shocking about that to me, and we all saw how the same governor got into trouble for having 35 years ago being in blackface or in a KKK outfit or whatever the heck he was doing.
Yeah. If you look at the picture, I'm pretty sure he's the guy in the KKK thing, because if you look at the yearbook, there are other pictures with that other guy in it without the blackface on and wearing the same plaid pants and everything, same build, and it's clearly not Ralph Northam. You can see him in the other pictures. So my guess is he's the guy in the white cape.
Well, it's I don't know. I just know that everybody's up in arms about that. I'm sorry. This pediatrician totally calmly talked about killing a child on the delivery table after having a discussion with the parents because the child may have had a disability of some sort.
Yeah. That's how he defended it after the fact. When he made the statement, it wasn't even about a disabled child, but he thought he could take it all back by telling us it's disabled.
Yeah, it's only disabled. Yeah, I know. What kind of ghoul is that? But here's why that's game changing. A lot of people just don't want to think about it. They don't want to think about what a late-term abortion is. They don't want to think about partial birth abortion. And so when Donald Trump,
it's awful.
Yeah, and so when Donald Trump confronted Hillary Clinton in a debate in 2016 and said, "You're for killing children when they're viable. You're for killing babies." She got all offended that this was a misrepresentation and wasn't true. When partial birth abortion is nothing more than you deliver the baby so they can get in the head through the birth canal so they can be killed. Right. That's what partial birth abortion is. Hence the word partial birth. So there's no excuse here. The reason the Democrats did not act offended at what Ralph Northam originally said about abortion is because they know the truth. That's exactly what they do. And the really terrible part is Planned Parenthood, who gets over $500 million of taxpayer money every single year. Planned Parenthood sells the body parts of those aborted babies, and a baby that's full term, the body parts are worth a lot more than they are if it's a partial term birth. So this issue is one that people don't want to talk about. It's one that quite honestly I don't talk about ever. It's not part of what Americans for Limited Government talks about. But you know what? It's transformative because people saw it. They couldn't believe their eyes. And the President of the United States made a moral case against that very procedure. And the Democrat women sat on their hands saying it's okay to kill a full-grown baby.
Yeah.
It's okay to kill an infant.
Yeah.
That is the game changer. Yeah. That's the image that will be seared in people's minds. if the people who do politics for a living actually have the guts to create that image again and again and again and make them eat it.
I mean, I think there's a couple things about this that are worth noting. And one of them is, of course, if you belong to a political party that is unwilling to applaud for the idea of not killing babies shortly after they're born, then you need to reassess everything about your life, your political party, your value structure. It means that you are morally wrecked. You are, there's something awful about you. You're dead inside. It's just, to me, amazing. But the other thing that I found...
Well, the most amazing part to me is the same people who didn't applaud ending, stopping somebody from killing a baby at birth, then saying happy birthday to an 81-year-old man.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm sorry. You don't get to say happy birthday.
Right.
Because you've basically said a birthday for some is okay to be a death day for those same
for others, people. Right?
And but that once again, the reason I want to go on this thread is because ultimately, you go back to the saving of lives when the train was stopped by American soldiers, stopping a train that was destined to a death camp. The American soldiers arriving at Dachau and liberating people who were being starved to death and were being sent to gas chambers. This was a story of life. Yeah. This was a story about Americans defending human dignity, defending life. That was a thread, part of the liberty thread that was throughout this.
Absolutely.
And explaining that to the American people, that we're the good guys.
Yeah.
We're the guys who wear the white hats.
Liberty, the pursuit of happiness. And it all starts with life.
We are the white hats in life. We are the white hats in the world. We're not always get it right, but we're the white hats who are fighting for justice, fighting for liberty. And anybody who thinks otherwise is just dead wrong.
Absolutely. One of the things that I hope that people remember is that Ralph Northam, when he ran against Ed Gillespie referred to his liberal record on abortion. And Ralph Northam ran an ad where he acted indignant and said it's disgusting that Ed Gillespie would say that I would ever harm a baby. A year or so later, he's talking about killing one after having made it comfortable. After birth, of course. And so it's like, I think we have to make sure from now on that everyone in America understands the left's not talking about choice. It's talking about killing babies. Because there's no choice. If the baby's already been born, what's the choice? What does that have, or Kamala Harris tweeting during the speech, something about, a man shouldn't be telling a woman what to do with her body. Well, excuse me, the baby's been born. It's on the table. The doctor's making it comfortable. Why is that your body now? And so to me, the Democrats have been revealed for the extremist lunatics that they are. And I think those Democrats that vote for them probably have to realize that. But we are up against the clock. I'm sorry, this issue just sends me into orbit. But anyhow, you're listening to Conservative Commandos. I'm George Landreth, and I am here with my good friend Rick Manning. He's the president of Americans for Limited Government, and we are coming to you from the Conservative Commandos Radio Network. And we, of course, are broadcast all across this great nation and on the AUN TV network in California. And if that's not enough, we truly are everywhere because we are around the entire world on Al Gore's amazing internet. As I said, with the possible exception of China, North Korea, Iran, maybe Cuba, I don't know. But anyhow, we are truly everywhere. Don't go away. Rick and I'll be right back.
Friend, do you remember when it felt good to withdraw your cash from the bank to expand a business, go on vacation, or buy a new car? Well, today, withdrawing your own cash has become a very risky business, according to The Secret War, a shocking new research report. I just read it. And folks, I was amazed to learn why banks are now required to spy on us for the government and then report any suspicious or unusual behavior. I suggest you get The Secret War free. Just call the number on the screen, no charge, from the folks at Swiss America, and get this. Did you know simply spending cash today may be enough to have you branded as a potential criminal? That's right. The new war on cash is really a war against all freedom-loving Americans. The secret war is yours free, so call the number on the screen and you can tell them Pat Boone gave you the number.
Dish TV is better than cable TV. Here's why. Dish has the nation's lowest TV price, along with an award-winning DVR that can skip commercials, record 8 shows at once, and get access to thousands of movies at your fingertips. Cable simply can't even compare. So the smart choice is to cut the cable and get Dish. Plus, you get all these great TV features, free HD DVR upgrade, free installation, and free movie channels. Say goodbye to cable and get more with Dish TV. 877-290-7764, 877-290-7764. As an added bonus, you can switch to Dish now and receive a $50 Visa gift card. So call now and get Dish TV. Call 877-290-7764, 877-290-7764. That's 877-290-7764. Limited time offer, 24-month commitment and credit qualification required. Cancellation fee, monthly equipment fees, and other restrictions apply. Promotion can change at any time.
My healthcare costs were going to double this year.
Doubled.
Doubled.
It was down to healthcare or my student loans.
I found a better way.
It's neighbors helping neighbors.
Liberty Health Share. It's freedom from insurance. At Liberty Health Share, we support each other and keep health costs down. We're changing the way you're paying for health care.
This is the way it should be.
We're all in this together.
We're changing the way you pay for health care.
The movement to help each other is growing.
Liberty
Health Share. This is the way it should be.
This is how I make a difference.
Healthcare costs are skyrocketing. The third-party pay system is the culprit. It's taking money out of our pockets. Liberty Health Share has solved that issue by being self-pay patients sharing our medical bills. Liberty Health Share is a grassroots movement all across America where people are abandoning the insurance model and instead are meeting each other's costs in community with one another.
Welcome back to the Conservative Commandos. This, of course, is our State of the Union special edition of the Conservative Commandos. I'm George Landreth. He's Rick Manning. We're your Conservative Commandos host today. We're glad to be here with you on this special edition. Lots to talk about. The State of the Union. I thought the president did a very good job. Like I said, we've kind of already said, not necessarily every single policy prescription do we always agree with, because the president probably wasn't talking to you and I and necessarily always to super conservatives. He was talking to the American public, trying to lay waste to the idea that he's some crazy lunatic that's, trying to ruin things. But before we get to that, I do want to remind folks that if you'd like to hear a rebroadcast of our show today, please check out our websites for information. Anything that you want to know about the Conservative Commandos, it's all there. CCRSnetwork.com, CCRshow.com. And there, of course, we are on Facebook. We're on Twitter. Just look for the Conservative Commandos. So it seems to me we might want to talk about some of the specifics of the proposal and it wasn't a long laundry list of, I'm calling on Congress to send me a bill to sign that will do this and do that. So it was, in one sense, short of that because it was big on vision. But he did have a number of policy prescriptions and very specific things he wanted Congress to work with him on. And so let's talk about some of those, particularly maybe some of the ones we were a little more excited about. I was excited that global warming wasn't among them.
Yeah, no global warming. Well, in terms of things to be excited about, I think one of the things he said that I'm having a hard time with actually policy prescriptions that he was pushing that I was sitting there jumping up and down in favor of. I will say that I think his challenge of doing something about the endless wars, I think really would resonate with a lot of people. Mm-hmm. Now, I think we've got some challenges. We have to figure out what we're doing in the Middle East and set objectives, and actually, if we've accomplished those objectives, try to get the heck out.
Yeah, I think like you said, great nations do not fight endless wars. And I think he's right about that. It's not that we're afraid. I mean, I got the impression Barack Obama that, there was no war Barack Obama would probably fight. I mean, I hopefully we can all agree that World War II was worth fighting.
Right.
And
but World War II was 4 years.
Right.
Okay, let's just be clear. It was less than 4 years. December 7th, 1941 to late September 45. So you get right down to it, it's less than 4 years. And we've been in Afghanistan. People who are fighting in Afghanistan now were not born when 9/11 occurred.
Right.
Think about that. That's how long we've been doing that. And right now, the Taliban controls about 70% of the land in Afghanistan. We're sending over rotations of troops in 9-month increments who spend the first 3 months trying to figure out where they are, the next 3 months fighting, and the final 3 months trying to figure out how to make sure they get home. So we're not actually accomplishing our missions. We're trapped in the standard kind of combat role where we're confined to bases. We're not actually controlling land. And as a result, we basically send our men and women over there to be sitting ducks. We either have to create rules of engagement which allow us to use our air power to actually project force and use our manpower to go in, and I mean that generically, our manpower to go in and actually wipe out the enemy and take them out, or we need to figure out an exit strategy and get the heck out, because wasting American lives when you don't have an objective and you're just sitting in place waiting to be a target is bad policy. It's not good for America, and it's certainly not being faithful to those troops who volunteered to be there and their families.
Well, and it's also not, I mean, the other thing that's important to remember is it's not enough to say that these people that they're fighting are bad or evil. I mean, because in the final analysis, we have to do something that's good for America. And so if all we're doing is kind of confronting evil and getting people killed, but not really defeating evil or, changing anything, it's not worthwhile, is my point. There's lots of evil in the world. Afghanistan's not the only place it exists. Heck, it exists in Venezuela. It exists in, there's lots of pockets of evil in the world. And if it's our position that we have to go fight it wherever it exists, then we might have to go to, Putin's office. Because he's definitely evil. You know what I mean? So my point is, I think the analysis has to be more sophisticated, and sometimes people will justify something by simply telling us, well, they're bad people. It's like, well, I got that. But what are we doing to promote America's interest to make America safer? And, and I think that's the weak point here, is that at some point, I think Donald Trump is right. We do have to ask that question, when do we come home?
And I think it's a debate that our nation needs to have.
Right.
If there is an interest, an American interest in staying there, then there needs to be a plan to actually achieve that interest, rather than just
agreed. And then we pursue that interest. Yeah. I'm a hawk. I'm a firm believer that power. I'm a believer in the idea of peace through strength. Absolutely. That's where I come from. But I think we have to sometimes wield that strength a little more wisely and judiciously, so as not to make ourselves easy, just to have body counts, because that's what the other side's looking for. They're very patient. They're willing to lose every engagement if they can just get us to get tired of it.
Well, and what we know, the one lesson, those of us who are from the Vietnam generation, and I was too young to be able to fight in Vietnam, but I grew up with a POW bracelet on my wrist, and had friends who went to Vietnam who were the brothers of people who were my friends. So it was the lesson was very heartfelt, and learned that if you don't have an objective, you shouldn't be doing it. You have to have an exit strategy. And at this juncture, I think that's what this president's trying to do, is try to figure out an exit strategy from a place where people have sacrificed their lives and fought valiantly. But at what point are we not accomplishing anything? Are we just spinning our wheels? The other thing I think is really significant in this conversation, I think it's something that the left, they didn't seem to jump up and down about. I was shocked. But on the Korean Peninsula, they scoffed when the president said, if it wasn't for me, we'd probably be at war there. But you know what? And that was kind of President Trump kind of slipping into his campaign mode a little bit as opposed to the speech mode. But, the fact of the matter is, we've been sitting there for almost 70 years. Almost 70 years, about 65 years. We've been sitting there on the Korean Peninsula. We fought a war, and we've had troops sitting there, 35,000 troops sitting there on a demilitarized zone. And now, people are not sitting there with guns pointed at each other, and people walk across that border regularly now. And it's essentially the situation's changed. The little rocket man, as the president nicknamed him about 18 months ago, isn't firing rockets anymore. And he announced a summit, and the objective of that summit is very clear: denuclearize the Korean Peninsula and to end the Korean War finally and forever. That is a peace. That's how you make peace. And, it's easy to sit there and say, well, we shouldn't be talking to this guy. We don't have any guarantees. Well, you know what? You never get anything good done unless you take some risks. And this president has risked where others weren't willing to try to make it so we could have peace and a denuclearized Korean Peninsula.
And he didn't send him $150 billion.
Yeah.
His risk is he meets with them. He doesn't actually give them anything. So, we'll see. I thought another interesting point was he talked about the importance of ending illegal immigration and putting ruthless coyotes, cartels, drug dealers, and human traffickers out of business. To me, that he was obviously getting at the wall, border security, the whole 9 yards. And I thought it was interesting because the left had a hard time. They wanted to cheer getting rid of human traffickers, I suppose, but they also understood this whole issue. We don't know if we want to cheer that. It was kind of fun to watch them be tortured.
Yeah, they were squirming a little bit. Nancy was squirming behind him, and that's what everybody was sitting there anticipating this speech because of that notion. And I think it's instructive that we've waited till like the fourth segment to even talk about it. But, the fact is everybody saw what he said. He laid out a comprehensive plan. He didn't say building a wall was the only thing. He laid out a comprehensive plan for moving forward. And the Democrats have nothing. They haven't offered anything back. Everybody knows. He didn't have to say it. Everybody knows that Nancy Pelosi said, open the government and we'll negotiate. And that subsequently there have been no negotiations. So he didn't have to say it. Everybody knows it. Everybody in the room knew it. And the fact of the matter is, there is a cudgel hanging over their heads because in a few days, the government could shut down again. The president could take an action independently. We don't know. But what we do know is if Congress can't get their stuff together and fund border security, it will be on Congress. This
Absolutely.
President will get a wall built with them or without them. And so they're the ones who are going to bear the political costs.
Absolutely. Well, we're up against the break again. I just want to remind our listeners, you are listening to Conservative Commandos, the special edition, the State of the Union edition. I'm George Landreth. He is Rick Manning, and we are coming to you from the Conservative Commandos Radio Network, which is broadcast all across this great nation in traditional broadcast towers. We are also broadcast on the AUN TV network in California and soon in Nevada. And we're carried around the world on Al Gore's amazing internet. We truly are everywhere. Don't go away. The Conservative Commandos will be right back.
Friend, do you remember when it felt good to withdraw your cash from the bank to expand a business, go on vacation, or buy a new car? Well, today, withdrawing your own cash has become a very risky business, according to The Secret War, a shocking new research report. I just read it. And folks, I was amazed to learn why banks are now required to spy on us for the government and then report any suspicious or unusual behavior. I suggest you get The Secret War free. Just call the number on the screen, no charge, from the folks at Swiss America. And get this, did you know simply spending cash today may be enough to have you branded as a potential criminal? That's right. The new war on cash is really a war against all freedom-loving Americans. The Secret War is yours free, so call the number on the screen and you can tell them Pat Boone gave you the number.
Dish TV is better than cable TV. Here's why. Dish has the nation's lowest TV price, along with an award-winning DVR that can skip commercials, record 8 shows at once, and get access to thousands of movies at your fingertips. Cable simply can't even compare. So the smart choice is to cut the cable and get Dish. Plus, you get all these great TV features, free HD DVR upgrade, free installation, and free movie channels. Say goodbye to cable and get more with Dish TV. 877-290-7764, 877-290-7764. As an added bonus, you can switch to Dish now and receive a $50 Visa gift card. So call now and get Dish TV. Call 877-290-7764, 877-290-7764. That's 877-290-7764. Limited time offer, 24-month commitment and credit qualification required. Cancellation fee, monthly equipment fees, and other restrictions apply. Promotion can change at any time.
My healthcare costs were going to double this year.
Doubled.
Doubled.
It was down to health care or my student loans.
I found a better way.
It's neighbors helping neighbors.
Liberty Health Share. It's freedom from insurance. At Liberty Health Share, we support each other and keep health costs down. We're changing the way you're paying for health care.
This is the way it should be.
We're all in this together.
We're changing the way you pay for health care.
The movement to help each other is growing.
Liberty
Health Share. This is the way it should be.
This is how I make a difference.
Healthcare costs are skyrocketing. The third-party pay system is the culprit. It's taking money out of our pockets. Liberty Health Share has solved that issue by being self-pay patients sharing our medical bills. Liberty Health Share is a grassroots movement all across America where people are abandoning the insurance model and instead are meeting each other's costs in community with one another.
The AM/FM 24/7 Roku channel broadcasts all of our shows on demand. To ensure reliability, we store and stream our content on the same servers as Netflix and Amazon. Our Roku channel is free to use, and anyone owning one of the more than 10 million Roku devices can watch our channel at no cost whatsoever. If you have a television show or are thinking about producing a show, you can be a part of AM/FM 24/7's Roku channel. Watch our great shows on your Roku device. It's free and more reliable than cable TV. Are you stuck with a timeshare? Did you attend the presentation and were seduced and enticed into buying that great vacation and investment? Now you're in the terrible position of trying to figure out a way to get out of that mess. You're not alone. For over 15 years, BuyYourTimeshare.com has been helping people like yourself get out of timeshare ownership. The fact is there is no resale market. Unscrupulous telemarketers call you and say they have buyers waiting, and the next thing that happens is you give them hundreds of dollars for an ad, and you'll never hear from them again. Another fact is that an identical timeshare to yours is being offered on eBay for $1, and no one is buying it. If you want out of your timeshare, I urge you to go to BuyYourTimeshare.com or call them at 877-94-HELP-ME. That number again is 877-94-HELP-ME. BuyYourTimeshare.com. That's BuyYourTimeshare.com. 877-94-HELP-ME.
Welcome back to the Conservative Commandos. I'm George Landreth with Rick Manning. We are your Conservative Commandos host for this special edition of the Conservative Commandos and the State of the Union address. You know, well, Rick, I should probably remind people where they can get our rebroadcast and so forth, but then we'll jump right back in. So, rebroadcast, information about the Conservative Commandos, just our websites, pretty easy stuff, CCRSnetwork.com and CCRshow.com. And, of course, we're on Facebook and Twitter, so follow us. The Conservative Commandos are easy to find. And like I said earlier, we are the fake news-free show. None of that here, just the real stuff. Rick, there were some other things in this speech I thought were interesting and I thought certainly useful. One of them was he said he pledged tonight that I will never abolish, this is a quote from him, our heroes at ICE. So last night he basically laid down, because we've heard lots of people say we should get rid of ICE. On the Democratic side, he made it clear that ain't happening.
He threw down the gauntlet at the Alexandria Ocasio-Cortezes of the world, who've made it said they're going to fight against any appropriations bill that funds ICE. He had a hero, somebody from ICE, who had actually broken up human trafficking rings and saving hundreds of women from the despair of slavery, of sex slavery. And
he
yeah,
made a compelling case because he talked about the human sex traffickers and all that, and he pointed out that ICE is the people who helps prevent that.
Yeah, and it put the Democratic women, freshman women in their white outfits, in a really uncomfortable place because
did they forget the hats?
Yeah, they're almost. They were the ivory clothed Handmaid's Tale people, but but you had put them in a difficult position because how can you be for sex slavery, but ICE are the people who are stopping that and they want to get rid of ICE, so they had a real problem there. Another thing which he talked about a little bit, which I thought was significant. He tried to come up with issues that he thought there'd be mutual agreement on, and I thought that the idea of trying to do something on infrastructure was interesting. I don't know how they're going to pay for it, truthfully. I don't know what the plan is, but in general, he got everybody to stand up for spending more of our money on roads and bridges. He did talk about the need to invest in 21st century technologies and the like, which I like the private sector investing in that. I don't know how much the public sector has to invest, but maybe there's some. But the thing that shocked me about it, I guess didn't shock me. I was kind of warned in a meeting with Mick Mulvaney and the vice president and the president yesterday that this wasn't going to be there. There was not one mention of our almost $1 trillion a year deficit and the need to slow down the spending. Mm-hmm. Not one mention. It's almost as if the concept of limiting the size and scope of government kind of went out the window a little bit in terms of this speech. And I think the reason for that is pretty simple. This speech was designed to tell America that everything doesn't have to be a fist fight in Congress. There should be some things they can work on together. Yeah. And everybody knows that the Democrats are not going to, and quite honestly, some of the Republicans are not going to support cutting the size and scope of government. So he was basically talking to this Congress with this particular group of legislators about the art of the possible. And unfortunately, for those of us who believe that we face an existential threat through the debt, he was telling us we have to elect a new Congress and give him another term if we're going to have a chance at beginning to cut that debt. But there was no mention of that, and I think the failure to mention that was deliberate. And we should actually take some cues from it.
Right. Well, one thing I was thinking, how could he have gotten Ocasio-Cortez to stand up and cheer? And I came to the conclusion he probably would have had to give a shout out to Karl Marx to make that happen. So that wasn't going to happen.
He gave them a shout out for winning.
Huh?
The one time she cheered was when he gave the Democrats a shout out for winning.
Right. She cheered herself.
Yeah, she did cheer herself.
But she couldn't cheer anything else. But she probably would have cheered Karl Marx. But sadly for her, great for the rest of us, he said that we will never be a socialist nation. So I'm sure she went home crying.
Well, if she'd known who Karl Marx was, she might have cheered him. But
that's true.
So, let's not assume knowledge here.
Profoundly kind of, I think, dim, but, oh well. Yeah, well, should we turn our attention now to the rebuttal, as it were?
Sure.
It was kind of, to me, it wasn't much of a rebuttal because it kind of didn't really rebut much. It was aimed at entirely other things. It was kind of aimed at trying to blame Donald Trump for the shutdown, which isn't really entirely true. I mean, it takes two to tango. And then, she spent a lot of time talking about suppression of the vote and stuff like that. The candidate who spent time telling us that people who are illegal aliens should be able to vote.
Well,
I noticed she didn't say that today. She managed to leave that out this time.
That was amazing because she's the exact wrong messenger for wanting to have a federalization of elections because the elections are unfair and people are being cheated out of being able to vote. Because she is the person who argued in court. She argued in court that illegal aliens should be allowed to vote.
Yeah, and she said in the campaign
she's
too.
She's that person. So somehow the Democrats managed to pick the exact wrong messenger for that message. I obviously her story about her dad walking home and having given his coat to somebody who was homeless was a very compelling story, but it had absolutely nothing to do with any policy issue. And nothing, there was no relationship.
It was more like she was saying, my dad was a good man. And I'm like, that's fine.
And yeah, now the one thing she did do, and I'll give credit to her, the Democratic Party has become the anti-God party. They booed God at their convention. And she really tried to bring back a sense that there is a place for God in their party. The place is right behind the state, but it's but there is a place.
The state government's their God.
And so I think that she was, that from that extent, she had some success. But, ultimately, she painted a vision that was straight out of, I thought we were in the Great Depression, listening to her talk about, the need for people struggling with jobs and all the different things she was laying out. We have more, some people are always going to be struggling. We have more jobs available than we have people to fill them. Mm-hmm. Our labor participation rate,
at historically high rates.
Yeah, and so
could they be higher? Sure. I wish everyone were a millionaire. But the fact of the matter is we're doing much better now than we were under Barack Obama, and yet during the Obama years, they're all telling us how good we have it.
Exactly right. So you had this opportunity where what she should have said is she should have said, some things are going right in this country, and Barack Obama deserves a great deal of the credit. But you know what's not going right? The tone in the country. And Donald Trump just sets the wrong tone. That would have been the right message, because the very voters that Donald Trump...
Not so much maybe the right message, it would have been a message that would work better.
Would have been an effective message.
Yeah, right. Because, some of that's still based in dishonesty, but it was dishonesty that could sell. But she was basically standing in a bright sunny day complaining about the rainy weather.
Yeah, it was really the wrong message delivered at the wrong time. And her prescriptions were straight out of the Great Society kind of prescription. So it's not like there was any new ideas. No, this was just bigger government. And oh, by the way, we're going to have the federal government take over voting because we don't want voter IDs to be, people have to have IDs to vote. We don't want to make sure we have secure elections. What we want is basically to be a free-for-all where anybody who shows up as many times as they want to get to vote.
Right.
And that's essentially what she was advocating.
And people can say things like, well, how do you know the Democrats are trying to steal elections? And the answer is, when was the last time you saw an election where on election night a Republican lost by 100 votes? But 2 weeks later, they found a bunch of votes in the trunk of someone's car or a closet somewhere, and then magically the Republican won. The reality is it's always the other way around. Time and time and time again, Republicans win on election night, and then they lose.
George, this has been great.
Votes. There's a reason for that, because the Democrats cheat.
Democrats cheat. And on that note, we're going to have to call it an evening. It's been a great opportunity to sit down and talk with you, George, and discuss the State of the Union and kind of get our impressions. And hopefully this will help some people who kind of think through what they saw, and they could like it or not like it. Send us a note. Tell us. Follow us on Twitter. Send us a note. Say what you think. We want to hear what you have to say. We are the Conservative Commandos. This is the end of the special State of the Union message, and we appreciate your viewership, your listenership, and your friendship. Thank you very much.
Have you been leasing a property for your business or renting storage space? Are you tired of paying rent year after year? Call the experts at General Steel to own a building at up to 30% off now.
I'd been renting a building and paying someone else's mortgage, but General Steel showed me how I could own a space tailored to the needs of my business and for less than renting.
Call General Steel now at the number on your screen for our current building specials and to price your metal building system today.
My building's the dream I've had since finishing my house 14 years ago. I've been using it for a garage, workshop, and storage area for my tools and equipment, and I can't believe how great it turned out.
The economy is improving and the price of steel is expected to rise. Stop waiting. It could cost you thousands. Call General Steel now to see how you can own for less than you thought. Stop waiting to start your business or expand your operation. Call General Steel now.
Call 877-484-7002.
Everybody wants cheap airfare, but where do you find it? You call low-cost airlines. Their prices are direct from the airlines, and they're so low you can't find these fares published anywhere. They specialize in cheap flights, discount hotel rooms, cheap car rental rates, and great package deals anywhere around the world. Wherever you want to go, they can help you get there cheaply and with a best price guarantee. If you want the lowest prices on your airline tickets or other travel services, call now. That's right, call. That's the only way to get these rates. Experts are standing by 24/7 to get you the cheapest airfare and hotel rates available. So don't wait. Call right now for the lowest travel prices anywhere and for great last-minute travel deals too.
Call 888-431-0562. That's 888-431-0562. 888-431-0562. 888-431-0562.
Hi. In my lunch alert, special alert actually, it was a sort of late night snack alert after the State of the Union finished last night. I described my view in general, that it was a triumph. I think that he was just terrific. And what I'd like to do today is go through the specific parts of the speech that I thought were really good and really effective. Overall, you know, CNN and CBS both did instant polling of people who watched and found that almost 60% approved. And that's really 60 out of 60 because he'll never get approval from the Democratic base. So what he's looking for is approval from his 40% and then the independent 20%. So he scored unanimously, really. I thought that he opened the speech brilliantly with his overt patriotic appeal, his talk about D-Day, about the moon landing, and his saying that his goal was to create an amazing quality of life. That's something Americans need to really understand about his agenda. And then his appeal for no resistance, no anger, instead compromise. Greatness or gridlock is also resistance. Choose greatness. Absolutely terrific. Bipartisanship, but with aspiration at the same time. Moving ahead and moving up, as opposed to just fighting back and forth. Then he went through the details of his record. And the important thing to remember, as I think I said last night, is that most people don't know any of this because the media doesn't cover any of this. They don't give him the right time of day, and they won't cover any achievements of his administration. As far as they're concerned, it's all the wall, and there's so much more that he's done. So laying in the economic boom information that blue-collar wages are faster and explicitly relating that to his campaign commitment, and then pointing out that black and Hispanic wages are rising faster and unemployment is lower than it has ever been, I think was very important for him to point out. And then he talked about various other aspects of his program that he's passed. For example, the right to try medication. Where if you're seriously ill and nothing else is working, you have the right to try experimental medications, not approved by the FDA, but being tested so that you can at least try something and hope it works. Very important bill that he's passed. His focus on opioid addiction, his reform of the VA, those are things you don't hear about, and I think he's done a great job, and it's very good to hear him explain that to people. Then I thought he did a wonderful job in talking about the Sentencing Reform Act. As you know, I had my concerns about that bill. But by bringing up that woman who was in prison for 20 years or something and for a first-time drug offense and has now been released but was facing a life sentence, and she was crying up in the balcony, that was so impressive, so important, particularly because she was a woman and because she was black. And it really cut across the whole grain of the black animosity toward the Republicans that they use imprisonment as a form of racism. That's not an accurate accusation, but it is so great to see him respond in that compassionate way. And then on illegal immigration. First of all, he made the clear case, which I thought was great, that this is the working class versus the political class. That the working class needs the walls and barriers to eliminate competition for jobs and wages. And the rich people, the political class, have their own walls. They have their own means of protecting themselves. And then he laid case for immigration squarely on the basis of compassion, not racism, not exclusionary policies, but compassion. Talking about how migrant children are the pawns, human traffickers, angel moms whose children are victimized by crime from illegal immigrants. Then he explicitly embarked on a riff about feminism that was fantastic and so needed as he's losing college-educated women. He pointed out that women get 58% of the new jobs he's created, that there are more women employed now in the labor force than there have ever been. And then he turned to the the Democrats in Congress, who were sitting there dressed in white, the women, and said that there were more women in Congress than ever before. And that was so counterintuitive in terms of what people would expect him to say. And he praised it, and he got wonderful applause as a result of that. That's just the kind of symbolic rhetoric that is so important, isn't it? And then he talked about lowering healthcare costs, lowering drug costs. He said, which I didn't realize, that prescription drug costs have dropped by more this year than they have in the last 46 years as a result of his focus on competition for these prices. His progress in eliminating HIV, his focus on childhood cancer, a new area that really has not been part of the political dialogue, and having that wonderful, beautiful 12-year-old girl, 10-year-old girl in the balcony who's battling cancer was a wonderful, wonderful touch. And then he didn't compromise his positions. He came right back and he said that he would support one wall, but other forms of immigration reform as well, and southern border protection. And he said very clearly that he opposed the idea of abortion for the entire pregnancy, and spoke about late-term abortion as a particularly cruel operation, and was very significant that the Republican women sat on their hands during that, when they're actually describing killing a baby on the way out. So I think that was also very effective. And then finally, I think that it was very important that he ended by saying that he would not adopt socialism. That socialism was the enemy, it was not the American way of life. And I think that was brilliant to bring it there, and it sets the campaign theme for 2020, to use these crazy Democratic positions against the Democratic candidates, and describe them as overtly embracing socialism. And I think that was a very key distinction in linking socialism to the crisis in Venezuela, where people, the average Venezuelan, God help them, has lost almost 20 pounds of weight in a year, not through dieting, but through starvation. And then I felt that he was wonderful in his focus on the Holocaust, having the Holocaust survivor and the veteran from the military troop that liberated Dachau sitting there side by side. Two very old guys, but so important. And I think that in doing that, he's now reached out to blacks, to women, to Jews, to all of the core Democratic constituencies in a marvelous way, and made clear the compassion, that he knows they're there, that he cares about them, and that he shares the fundamental premises of their movements, the fighting of anti-Semitism, the growth of female employment, and the empowerment and employment, and the opposition to racism, particularly in the criminal justice system. Brilliant speech, brilliant outreach, and a great delivery on top of it.
AM/FM 24/7 Roku channel broadcasts all of our shows on demand. To ensure reliability, we store and stream our content on the same servers as Netflix and Amazon. Our Roku channel is free to use, and anyone owning one of the more than 10 million Roku devices can watch our channel at no cost whatsoever. If you have a television show or are thinking about producing a show, you can be a part of AM/FM 24/7's Roku channel. Watch our great shows on your Roku device. It's free and more reliable than cable TV. Are you stuck with a timeshare? Did you attend the presentation and were seduced and enticed into buying that great vacation and investment? Now you're in the terrible position of trying to figure out a way to get out of that mess. You're not alone. For over 15 years, BuyYourTimeshare.com has been helping people like yourself get out of timeshare ownership. The fact is, there is no resale market. Unscrupulous telemarketers call you and say they have buyers waiting, and the next thing that happens is you give them hundreds of dollars for an ad, and you'll never hear from them again. Another fact is that an identical timeshare to yours is being offered on eBay for $1, and no one is buying it. If you want out of your timeshare, I urge you to go to buyyourtimeshare.com or call them at 877-94-HELP-ME. That number again is 877-94-HELP-ME. Buyyourtimeshare.com. That's buyyourtimeshare.com. 877-94-HELP-ME.
President Trump talked up the economy, jobs, border security, and more, all while the Democrats sat on their hands. We'll dive into the State of the Union analysis. Plus, New York Governor Andrew Cuomo got a taste of reality when his socialist policies met a free society. We'll get into that. And Elizabeth Warren actually did use her heritage to advance her career. All that and more. I'm Bobby Eberle. This is a 13-minute news hour.
And God bless the United States of America.
Okay, first and foremost is the State of the Union address. President Trump gave it last night, and as I talked about earlier, this was smart policy or smart strategy by him in reopening the government. One, he had already given some concessions in their border security, border wall negotiations. The Democrats said, hey, we're not going to negotiate unless you reopen the government, and we're going to cancel a State of the Union. So he reached out to them again and reopened the government, and this allowed him to have this platform to speak to the American people unfiltered. The analysis, by the left comes later, but he got to speak directly to the American people, and he laid out an incredible case. I'm not one for State of the Union addresses much. They all tend to be the same, whether it's Republican or Democrat, and one of my peeves is that it becomes this laundry list of items rather than focusing on the main pressing issues of the day or the major accomplishments that the nation has seen over the past year or some of the challenges that it faces. It becomes a laundry list where we have to check off every single issue that's known to man just so it's mentioned. I mean, I'm all for school choice and vouchers, but it's not a pressing issue right now. No one's really talking about that, and yet that was an item that was mentioned, and on and on and on. But otherwise, it was a fantastic speech, in particular because of the way that Trump refined his language in speaking about border security and issues overall. But border security and illegal immigration, his team has to get a lot of props for the way they worded the issue for the American people. Too many times in the past, it was too easy for the media and the Democrats to spin Trump as a racist. He's talking about the problems of illegal immigration, and he'd say it in the context of illegal immigration brings crime and drugs and sex trafficking, things like that, which is all true. But by saying it in the way that he did, it was easy for the left and people on CNN and MSNBC to say, wait, there's all these good people that are coming in just to, support their families and things like that. And it was an easy target to go after Trump as being a racist or just wanting to keep these other people out. And this time he did a fantastic job of talking about the ills of illegal immigration. Because there is illegal immigration, because we have a porous border, because people can get through, we have bad people coming. We have drugs coming into the country. We have sex trafficking going on. We have gangs. We have violence, all sorts of crime. Crossing the border is a crime, and we shouldn't ever forget that. But not everyone who's crossing the border is a drug dealer or a sex trafficker or a gang member. And Trump really did a fantastic job of separating that out and laying out to the American people, here is why we need better border security. Here is why we need a wall, because they work. He went over the stats of in El Paso, in San Diego, and showed that where you did put up a wall, illegal immigration went down. That means that the crime and the drugs and the sex trafficking associated with illegal immigration went down in those areas. The facts are there, and the Democrats just want to ignore that. They just sat on their hands when he talked about what's going on the border, and it's tragic. When just another day, yesterday, 2 days ago, a MS-13 gang member was arrested for more acts of violence, more killings, and this just keeps happening. And President Trump did a great job of pointing that out. He also did a great job of highlighting some of the accomplishments that not only he did, but that the country has witnessed through his policies over the past 2 years. Here's one clip that I think is important. Check this out.
This legislation reformed sentencing laws that have wrongly and disproportionately harmed the African American community. The First Step Act gives nonviolent offenders the chance to re-enter society as productive, law-abiding citizens.
So he brought up the First Step Act. It's legislation that's been praised by Republicans and Democrats. And I think it's important to highlight because it does show that President Trump is willing to reach across the aisle, build consensus, and get laws passed that benefit society. Here's another clip that President Trump is emphasizing the economy. He's just talked about how the economy is nearly doubled since he has, the strength of the economy is nearly doubled since he took office. And in particular, here's what he points out.
African American, Hispanic American, and Asian American unemployment have all reached their lowest levels ever recorded.
So Black, Hispanic, Asian unemployment are at historic lows. He talks about this in the speech, and yet the Democrats won't applaud. They won't stand up. They just sit there. And the reason I bring this up is because one of the takeaways from his State of the Union address is that Trump's economy, it's like the rising tide lifts all boats. In Trump's economy, it lifts all people. And the Democrats want to marginalize his tax plan, marginalize the economy as only benefiting the rich. And what we're seeing now is that is 100% not true. Blue-collar wages are going up under President Trump. The median household income has gone up $6,000 since President Trump took office these last 2 years. The middle class is rising under President Trump, and so is everybody. That's why the economy is booming. So that's the number one takeaway, is these policies are benefiting everybody, in particular minorities. More people are working now than have ever worked before, and unemployment overall is at a plus 50-year low. Black, Hispanic, Asian unemployment is at historic lows. So we need to keep that in mind as we talk to people about the State of the Union address and Trump's policies and how they benefit the entire country. The other takeaway from the State of the Union is it just clearly showed what the Democrats stand for, or more to the point, what they don't stand for. President Trump listed a booming economy. He listed jobs. He listed the protection of innocent human life. Issue after issue that should be no-brainers, that should unite all Americans. The Democrats just sat there.
Friend, do you remember when it felt good to withdraw your cash from the bank to expand a business, go on vacation, or buy a new car? Well, today, withdrawing your own cash has become a very risky business, according to The Secret War, a shocking new research report. I just read it. And folks, I was amazed to learn why banks are now required to spy on us for the government and then report any suspicious or unusual behavior. I suggest you get The Secret War free. Just call the number on the screen, no charge, from the folks at Swiss America. And get this, did you know simply spending cash today may be enough to have you branded as a potential criminal? That's right. The new war on cash is really a war against all freedom-loving Americans. The secret war is yours, free, so call the number on the screen and you can tell them, Pat Boone gave you the number.
Dish TV is better than cable TV. Here's why. Dish has the nation's lowest TV price, along with an award-winning DVR that can skip commercials, record 8 shows at once, and get access to thousands of movies at your fingertips. Cable simply can't even compare. So the smart choice is to cut the cable and get Dish. Plus, you get all these great TV features, free HD DVR upgrade, free installation, and free movie channels. Say goodbye to cable and get more with Dish TV. 877-290-7764, 877-290-7764. As an added bonus, you can switch to Dish now and receive a $50 Visa gift card. So call now and get Dish TV. Call 877-290-7764, 877-290-7764. That's 877-290-7764. Limited time offer, 24-month commitment and credit qualification required. Cancellation fee, monthly equipment fees, and other restrictions apply. Promotion can change at any time.
And God bless the United States of America.
Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez and a bunch of the women Democrats were all dressed front and center in white, and so it was made just an obvious target on camera angles when you could see them just sitting there. It was so easy, and issue after issue, I was sitting there saying, surely they've got to applaud that. Surely that's news that everyone can get behind. And time again, they just sat there doing nothing, and it was just... It's just insulting to the American people to think that they have such a following and they assume that American people are going to follow their policies when they don't stand for anything. They stand for division. They will only focus particular groups where President Trump is saying, hey, here's my policies. Regardless of if you're black, Hispanic, white, it doesn't matter. Everybody is going to benefit when we push for deregulation, lower taxes, more jobs, better construction jobs, better blue-collar jobs. It's all happening right now. He showed it. The economy is yielding the results of that, and the Democrats won't give him any support. So that leads to the Democrat response, which was given by Stacey Abrams, who ran for governor of Georgia this past election cycle. And it was really interesting speech to watch because she's very personable, comes across as warm on the camera, well-spoken, and so as far as delivery goes, it was fine. Boring as usual for a response, whether it's Democrat or Republican. But what she actually said made you scratch your head and wonder what planet she's living on. First, she wished us all a happy Lunar New Year. Okay, thanks, I guess. I mean, that was kind of strange. But then the country that she was describing is totally contrary to what the reality is that we're seeing right now. She talked about the middle class struggling like never before, and yet the middle class is rising under President Trump. And she talked about how people are struggling and working multiple jobs and everything like that, the typical talking points, the division in this country. And yet, over these past 2 years, more people are at work, the wages are going up, which means that the middle class, more people are off of welfare and food stamps now than when Trump took over. So people that were struggling, there's fewer of those around. So I don't know who she's talking to. I don't know what point she's trying to make, but I know you didn't tune in. I know the real reason you tuned in is not for my analysis. That's not what's important. What you really tuned in for, and what I'm really excited about, is the Hollywood celebrities. What did they have to say? That's really what drives the country, right? So let's take a look at some of their reaction. Here's Rob Reiner, classic meathead from Archie Bunker, and here's his tweet. Glad to find out that America will never be a socialist country. Wish he could say the same about authoritarianism and fascism. We live in a republic. The legislature makes the decisions. Trump can do some, just like any other president, but nothing fundamental has changed within our government. Of course, then there's Deborah Messing, who always has something classic to say about Trump, and here's her tweet. President A president intent on unity does not ban immigrants based on their religion. Okay, he's not. He might temporarily ban people from terrorist countries that want to kill us, but there's no religious ban on people entering the country. And then, of course, we have one of my favorites, which is Alyssa Milano, and here's what she said on Twitter. A president intent on unity does not create or enforce a policy that makes it impossible to reunite children with the families from whom they were reprehensibly separated at the southern border. Well, first of all, he didn't create the policy. And second, it's not a policy that can or can't be enforced. It's the law. You can't house children with parents that have been arrested. That's how it is in this country too. If your mom or dad is arrested for stealing, you're not going to jail with them. So she makes no sense at all. And finally, I want to get to Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, because she had some classic moments in response last night. She looked like she was just stunned. She didn't know when to stand up, or she would have preferred to sit the whole time. But she would look around, wondering, is it okay should I stand for this one? I'm not sure. But Peggy Noonan kind of blasted her on her teenage attitude at the State of the Union. So here is Ocasio-Cortez's response. Why should I be spirited and warm for this embarrassment of a State of the Union? Tonight was an unsettling night for our country. The president failed to offer any plan, any vision at all for our future. We're flying without a pilot, and I'm here to comfort anyone about that fact. I'm not here to comfort anyone about that fact. Well, if we're flying without a pilot, I'll take autopilot right now any day of the week. The fact is that Trump has a plan, and we're seeing the fruits of that plan. When you deregulate, when you open up jobs because you've lowered taxes and allow companies to hire, allow companies to bring back jobs to this country, when you focus on keeping America safe, you are going to see some benefits. That is a plan. That is a tangible plan, and we're seeing real results. So it was funny to see the reaction from Hollywood and from the left and from socialists like Ocasio-Cortez. It was classic when President Trump said that we'll never be a socialist country. That was just number one. And I want to give you this. We'll leave Warren for another day, but I want to leave you with Andrew Cuomo, who is facing a multi-billion-dollar deficit in his state government. He held a news conference, and here's a local TV station reporting on some of what he said.
The 1%, the wealthiest New Yorkers, produce nearly half of the state's personal income tax revenues. But he acknowledged that also creates a very fragile economy because you're now relying on a very small amount of people.
Tax the rich, tax the rich, tax the rich leave. And now what do you do?
So it's awesome. When you count on half of your tax revenue, your state tax liability, from 1% of the population, his reaction was classic. It's socialism meets free society. Guess what? They're free to leave, which shows what happens eventually under socialism and communism is that people will not go for it. What you saw in Venezuela, what you saw in the Soviet Union, it always results in coercion, force, corruption, because no one will stand for that. And what New York is seeing is that in a free society, people will leave. They're leaving, and he's feeling the effects. So maybe you might want to not tax people so much. So anyway, that's it for today. I hope you enjoyed it, the analysis. Let me know your comments on what you thought about the State of the Union. Please subscribe and please tell your friends. I'm Bobby Eberly. This is a 13-Minute News Hour.